Welcome everybody to the latest episode of Plateau TV. Episode, not part or installment. Episode. Uh, we're going to be talking tonight about the latest installment of Twin Peaks, Part 7, which aired this past Sunday, and also digging in about TV comedies worth your time, and also just favorite TV comedies. We're not structured around here, but very excited to talk about that topic. But
So
definitely very excited to talk about Twin Peaks. And so tonight I'm joined by the usual Twin Peaks expert, Cameron. I mention him first only because we bring him in for his incisive expertise on the subject of Twin Peaks.
I'm not here to talk Twin Peaks tonight. I'm here to talk Step by Step and Perfect Strangers.
Hey, I'll talk about that. Let's do that. I'm okay with that. Let's do that.
As a well-known elitist. So,
Actually, yeah, I'm a Night Court Generation 1 fan.
Oh, yeah. Hey, now we got a show.
let's talk bull. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Hey, you know what?
I once lady at the beginning.
Yeah, I once met Richard Mole at a horror film convention, and he tried to sell me his girlfriend. So, or I'm sorry, allegedly sell his girlfriend. Goodness. Well, on that cheery time, other than drunk
Cameron,
that night.
Joined by a good and wise partner, Jay the Stingray is with us as always.
Hello.
Okay.
Good to be here.
I'm glad you dressed up. You're making me feel bad. I need to wear a suit or something,
Yeah,
man. I think you've been dressed up the past couple of shows.
Looking dapper as always.
Yeah, and then hiding behind the scenes is Orc. How you doing, Orc?
Jay look great. He looks great, dressed up. But I'm in my boxers, standing at my PC, so it's a little different. The bad visual, we got to keep it professional here. Just a quick heads up with the little kids watching. It's almost July 4th, so while you can, smuggle those fireworks across state lines. Just a quick heads up from Orc. But if you live in a place like Colorado or California where it's dry, don't light the whole state on fire. PSA.
Please don't.
Agreed. Real talk. There we go. Thank you. That was an important PSA, Orc, and I'm glad we said that. That's just one of the things that we do here on Plateau TV is make sure that everyone's properly educated about fire safety.
Fire safety, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely when you have your fireworks, don't hold them in your fist and close it and then light them. That just
Yes,
common sense.
Yes,
common sense
folks.
techniques here, folks.
Common sense, fisting and fireworks don't work.
Yeah.
So remember that. So if you're not into that stuff, or you don't want to blow off your hand or do anything dangerous like burn down a whole entire state, you can always go to clubs and do ecstasy and play with glow sticks. But oh no, sorry, that's bad news. Never mind. Okay, I'm done.
Yes. We also got the live chat going, folks. So if you're watching live, and I see we only got a handful of viewers right now, but hit us up on the chat. I think with 4 viewers we can keep up.
Yeah.
But let's dive into the first. I think let's dive into.
By the way,
Cameron,
Joseph is saying that he likes Married with Children. Obviously, I'm a big Married with Children fan, and apparently there's a Married with Children podcast out there that's still going strong.
What?
I'm not surprised.
There's a podcast for everything.
Yeah, there's a Seinfeld podcast. There's like an episode for every episode of the show.
Exactly. I would love to have a no ma'am shirt though. I think that'd be hilarious. wear that to work.
Well, who was talking about them trying to bring that back? Was it?
I thought it was Cameron.
We talked about it last week.
Okay.
Yeah, but you brought in the David Faustino aspect. I didn't like that too much.
I've heard that. I've seen that written about. I have to dig up the articles, but I've definitely seen that.
I think
but
said
listen,
some problems
let's try and reserve this piece for the back half where it fits a little more neatly. Now
you can't do it everywhere you go. Sorry.
Hey, in Fuller House too, we can talk about that.
Oh my.
Let's get a little cerebral here to start. Let's get the brains working before we let them go.
Okay. So
Twin Peaks Part 7 aired this past Sunday, and Twin Peaks Part 7. I've made a point of being explicit in the way that I call these installments of Twin Peaks parts or installments, but I thought that this past week's episode of Twin Peaks was the most episode-like of the Twin Peaks Return series that we've seen so far. We had extended extended sequences of continuous storylines, which was awesome. And similar to what we did last week, I think even though this episode actually did sort of flow narratively like a general episode does, I think it just makes sense to treat to kind of the way we look at it, to kind of go storyline by storyline. And so, like, for example, I think the big storyline, the one that pretty much opens the installment and blew a lot of people away, I think, was the Gordon Cole, Albert, and Diane storyline, which pretty much owned like the first 20, 25 minutes, I think, of that episode. And again, Cameron, you may have exact run times on that, but again, it ate up the majority of the opening of that installment.
We might get a Blue Velvet at the Emmys this year. Kyle and Laura Dern might be winning Emmys this year.
She deserves one, and so let's dive into that. So
he deserves one.
Yeah, there's a few people I think deserving of Emmys from this. But
if Laura Dern's character continues to be in this new series, she will win something this year. If she's just only in these 2 episodes, maybe not. But if she they kept putting her on Variety, with Kyle and all that stuff. So she's got to be pretty big in this.
I have to hope that if we see her interact with Doppel Cooper, that we can see her interact with Dale Cooper. Mm-hmm. Think that's the thing we'd like to see, right? I mean, that's Cooper's muse. I mean, he spoke to Diane every episode for 29 parts. Mm-hmm. I think we have to have her back at least for a reunion there.
And let's get this out of the way. I've seen so many people online saying, they probably were about to have a relationship when he went to Twin Peaks and he just never came back. So this is hostility about being left kind of at the altar. And, because she went into the interrogation room and she obviously, if she had met the bad Cooper, why would they need her to go there and say this is the bad Cooper? It's very apparent this woman did not get left at the altar.
I feel like obviously she was, sexually assaulted is kind of where I went.
Yeah. And that might be the kindest thing that happened to her.
Right.
In addition to,
and I say that in quotes. It's like, she could be, she's obviously emotionally traumatized. She's no longer working at the FBI, as far as we know. He could have, in a way, he could have done a Patrick Bateman American Psycho thing with her. You know what I mean? Like pulling out the coat hangers and, we're not through yet. We don't know what he did to her. The fact that she tells Gordon twice, we will have a talk. That scares me more than anything she could say. That line, the fact that there has to be a private discussion about this.
Right.
And we'll probably never know either.
That's fine with me because I'll imagine the worst.
Yeah. I think that's the way to play it. I think, no flashbacks. I think that my imagination is already working overtime and it's based purely off of her performance. The way she's quaking with sadness and with fear and with anger as she's talking to Albert after she encounters him, I think it speaks volumes. And again, credit to Laura Dern. She knocked that out of the park.
Mm-hmm. And I've been saying this for a while. I think that if Lynch had cast Krista Bell as Diane, I don't know if this would be going over so well, but because it's Laura Dern, I think people are okay with a character that for forever we never even saw or heard. And now we're being told this is Diane, it's Laura Dern. And I think people are okay with that because of the history we have with her and David Lynch. If it was just if it was a newbie, if it was the actors who played Lil in Fire Walk with Me, I don't think that. I think people would be saying, "Well, they should just left Diane as a mystery and just kind of off camera."
I think they should have left Diane as a mystery, personally. But
really,
I like it better, not knowing. I don't know. That's kind of the way I look at things.
But I'm just glad it kind of shuts people up about this whole theory. For years, I had to listen to this theory that Diane wasn't real and Cooper was insane and all that. I'm just like, no. She sent him earplugs, for goodness sake.
Well, to tell you the truth, before this show came out, I would have said I would rather not ever see anything Twin Peaks related come out again. But it's turned out to be way better than I would have expected.
Yeah. And they've subverted our expectations, I think, at every turn. And sometimes good, sometimes bad. But the fact is nothing about this series is what we expected.
And there is some trippy shit happening in this show. That's not even like just on like the blind Asian woman in episode 3. I mean, like at the end of this episode, the idea of 3 times flipping your extras in the diner scene for no reason.
Well, hold on.
You think it was
What
intentional?
you're trying to say, Cameron?
No, I'm
too far ahead.
no. But what I'm saying though is that there are in your face crazy surreal things happening and subtle things throughout this whole series.
Yeah,
that's what's making the brain just go crazy.
Yeah, the whole thing is kind of like assaulting you on a number of different fronts.
I feel like he just shot that and said, "Fuck it, they're gonna think it's some crazy Lynch stuff going on." I mean, I feel like it was just easy to just show the different angles. You know, it was probably some other footage they had.
But Norma is
when
sitting
they
in.
cut back.
But Norma is sitting in a booth, which is the exact same shot that they used in episode 4, or episode 5. I mean, and then when it cuts back, she's not in a booth.
And Jay also, Shelley reacts to it.
Yeah.
Watch that scene again.
Yeah, I saw it.
Like Shelley turns around and kind of like, what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
but
it kinda goes about business, but
if everyone in the whole place changed, wouldn't you think you'd have a bigger reaction than this? I mean, I'd be freaking out.
She's used to it.
Okay.
I think that when Dale went in the lodge, something just or came out. You know, I think having both Coopers in the world is throwing the whole reality spin.
Right. Well, so bringing up. Well, actually, hold on. Before we get to Cooper, I think that the way the episode actually opens is with Hawk and Sheriff. There was so much that happened in this episode. Like, it's easy to kind of forget major events. The episode actually opens pretty conventionally with Hawk and Sheriff Truman going over what Hawk found in the bathroom stall in the prior installment, which everybody, I think most people assumed were going to be the missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary, and proven, I think, effectively right. But more specifically, whether they're pages of Laura's diary, but it's something from Laura Palmer, because the things that are contained in these notes are essentially what happened to Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, when Laura has an extended dream, very surreal sequence. Annie Blackburn, Heather Graham, appears in her bed and tells her that that the good Dale is in the lodge, he can't get out, and this documents that Laura Palmer wrote that down, and that narrative has now been revealed. And just kind of watching Hawk and Truman kind of piece it together and talk about it, I thought it's like, gosh, we've waited years to see characters know that poor Dale is trapped in the lodge. Like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of quick things. One is I'm so happy that Laura did write it down, because there was always some conjecture about whether she was too drugged out of her mind to even remember to write it down.
Right.
And 2, the happiest moment I had about that whole scene was the fact that Frank Truman wasn't like, he wasn't the disbeliever. He wasn't what's her name in the X-Files, Scully. He wasn't like disagreeing with Hawk. He understood what he was saying.
Right.
And there was an understanding and an acceptance. It wasn't like, well, this is horse shit. It was it was like, okay, I need to call Harry. I mean,
and we talked about this a little bit on your show too, Cameron. And so there's we have thoughts that Harry maybe debriefed him, but I think even though he probably did, I think that an even more plausible explanation could just be that the sheriff, Frank Truman, like his brother, like Hawk, like the others of the the Bookhouse boys, are aware of the strange things in the woods outside of Twin Peaks. And so similar to Harry, while it might be kind of a leap to assume that, wow, there's like a gateway to another world in the woods, he's seen enough and he knows enough that there's some strange stuff out there, and he doesn't question it. He kind of and that it's being taught, like that Hawk is the one telling him this too, I think gives it further weight. Clearly Hawk is trusted. But I thought that was a great sequence of scenes, because it wasn't just like we jumped around like we had for the previous 6 parts. We stayed with that story until Frank called Harry, and he ultimately couldn't confirm with him. But we did see him talk to Doc Haywood, which was great to see Doc Haywood back.
Hayward.
Hayward. I'm like, what am I calling him? Haywood?
Yeah, that's there in 2001.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of his little computer monitor? That popped
Love
up?
it. Love it.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I was so like, when I was talking to Cameron about this earlier in the week. I liked so much about it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it was just this very mechanical mechanism that he like pulled a lever and it came out and it wasn't smooth. It was kind of like kajuk. There was just something very cool about the whole thing. Like I think everybody now wants their monitor and their desk like that.
I had someone contact me and they said, "Isn't it weird? Like, Truman's on the phone, on an actual like phone with cords talking to Harry, but he has this computer monitors and stuff like that. So there's like this mixture of old technology and new technology."
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny. They were like, "We got Skype. We're gonna use Skype, like the actual word, not like pull up video chat."
But the best part is that if you friend that person on Skype, it's Will Hayward. It's the actual character.
Yeah. I just thought that scene was funny because it really very much seemed to me like two old people trying to use the internet. The fact that they call each other before they get on it, like, I don't know. That's just kind of classic.
Well, their conversation was really like, it seemed genuine as well. Right. Not the, the actual substance, the just, a common talk that they had, the, shooting the bull.
Well, when was the last time you saw, like, I mean, forget about the Skype thing, just two guys in their 60s or 70s, like just talking, right? With no concern of like, well, is this going to be good for the kiddies to, or, I mean, it was just an honest kind of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also it was kind of the best way to bring in Mark Frost's dad. I mean, Warren Frost as Doc Hayward.
He was old, he was sick. It was probably the easiest way to get him to participate, and he was willing and he wanted to. So
right,
and it dedicated to him as well. Yeah,
and it makes sense. That he would be retired, and I love the talk about the fishing and all that. I mean, that's just the kind of stuff that David Lynch and his friends talk about.
Yeah.
If you notice all of David Lynch's films, whenever he has old timers talking, they're always talking about just going fly fishing and that type, and that's cool. I never hear about when I watch other TV, I never hear that kind of discussion. So it's nice to see that kind of stuff.
It makes
real conversation.
Real. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
But the other big development out of that story before we move on to the next one would be, it's an implication. There's a question there, but one of the things that the doc says is that, he admitted Agent Cooper to the hospital the night that he came out of Glastonbury Grove, and then he saw him sneaking out of the intensive care unit where Audrey Horne was in a coma after the bank explosion. And there's already been all kinds of theories out there that the character Richard Horne, since he's young enough, and we don't seem to know who his parents are, that perhaps the evil Cooper raped Audrey while she was in a coma, and that's his son. Which that's a pretty dark place, but I kind of feel like the show is pointing us in that direction.
But you know who else was intensive care at that same moment was Annie.
Annie was. But I feel like if he'd done something to Annie, that would have been part of what we learned too, though.
True. But also, who else was there was the nurse that had the alcove ring.
Well, yes, that's true. But I would ask though, how canon the missing pieces are.
Oh, they are.
They are canon.
Yeah.
You know that.
That's why they were brought out to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But do I think they're going to go there with Audrey? They very well could have, because they put it in our minds.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't say, well, Annie was there. They don't even, but we know that she exists and she's alive, or she was alive, because obviously it's written in the diary. So yeah, I mean, if they go there, that's going to be shocking. I've had some people, throw out that theory that Lindo is gonna be Annie and Cooper's kid because he did have sex with Annie before he went into the lodge.
Right.
But I actually got contacted by someone who works in intensive care. They said, well, given the trauma that Annie went through, they don't think the pregnancy would survive, which is very interesting.
I could say the same for Audrey.
I was gonna say, like, what do you mean the trauma that Annie went through? I mean, she had a face wound, but other than that, I mean, she was fine.
I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. But But then there's the other thing of, what if Linda is Audrey? because she needs a wheelchair, and that could, I mean, so Richard, if Richard is her son from the evil Cooper, then if Linda is Audrey's assumed name, to hide out, that's possible. But the other thing is, if she was in a coma, she wouldn't remember who did that to her. Right. And so that would explain why Ben Horne wasn't like pissed off that, oh, this is Cooper's key. This is the guy that raped my daughter when she was in a coma. He doesn't bring up that fact. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting because whoever the Horne is related to, he's obviously disowned because he's either driving around this terrible truck or he stole Jerry's truck. I don't know which one it is. I mean, I think every episode's answering more and more and more, but he is a character that I think deserves to die.
Right.
Richard Horne.
It looked like you had a thought there for a moment there, Jay.
Yeah. I did. Sorry, I've moved on. I'm
okay. Sorry about that.
I should go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, we can move on. If it comes to you, let's cover it. But then the kind of the next big story in the episode was getting back to Cooper and Dougie, and we had kind of a nice, amusing visit by David Koechner and his brothers, the detectives Fusco, as he introduces himself, and Janie E showing up like the rock star she is, covering for Dougie, covering for the situation. Again, I don't know that we learned so much from that sequence other than just, the cops are investigating Dougie's blown up car. And, the boss there wants to pump Dougie for more information about, the case, whatever discoveries Dougie made about those case files. Like he clearly wants to dig into that more.
Well, what do we think about Janie E? I mean, like I was talking with you, Eric, earlier. They're married, but she treats him like a disabled younger brother. I mean, there's no romance there. There's no like affection at all. She barely hugs him. She doesn't kiss him at all.
Maybe that's going to change after the events at the end of the episode there.
Right. I was actually that was actually, I think, why Cameron on your show, and I'll present it here too, that I was wondering if maybe sex or intimacy of some kind might be the thing that gets through to Cooper. Because Cameron's right. Now, by the way, I actually think there's a legitimate reason why Janie E has been like she's been to Dougie. Like when we first meet her, this is apparently Dougie returning home after being missing for 3 days, and she had no idea where he was. So she was pissed off at him, but he came inside and she did make him a sandwich or chips or whatever she gave him.
He's got hookers on the side.
Exactly. Yeah, she knows he's not faithful.
Right. And then, he's acting like a weirdo, and she, clearly she knows that he's acted similar to this in the past. So I think, we're seeing kind of Janie E interacting with Dougie, and she's sort of already on her heels. I do think it is weird that she, of all people, hasn't picked up on the fact there's something off with this guy, but still, I think there is a plausible reason why she's been, acting the way she has. I mean,
I know.
The previous part too. I mean, the issue of Jade came up. Jade gives 2 rides.
Right. I bet she does.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah. I think again, I think you're seeing, but it just, to me, this is what makes like we're talking about like Emmy candidates. Hell, I think Naomi Watts deserves an Emmy. I think she's had a great role, supporting actor or whatever, however she might fit into things. I think she's been fantastic in this.
She's last billed right next to Ike the Spike.
Right.
That's terrible, man. Like the entire cast is above her.
Well,
no, I think it's alphabetical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle MacLachlan is the only one out of order.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, he is kind of the star in every scene practically. So.
Yes.
But yeah, no, she's wonderful. And I, for a while I was thinking, God, this seems like an abusive relationship. The way she's just always barking at Dougie, but she barks at every man like this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She doesn't take shit from anybody.
No.
And the other thing so the kind of the next development in that storyline then was when they leave and Ike the Spike shows up and he tries to kill Dougie, but Cooper, I'll call him Cooper for a moment because it almost seems like his FBI reflexes kind of return to him to defend himself. And just keeping with the Janie E thought for a moment, unlike some depictions of female characters in a similar circumstance, rather than kind of be off on the side like, oh my God, she's like right in there with Dougie, like punching the guy and hitting him, and I just think it's great to her character. And she's,
but what the hell's wrong with Ike the Spike? He's so like insane in the last episode, and then this episode he's like a wannabe Jack Ruby. It's just like it doesn't. It's so not like what we saw last episode, right? He's just like, he couldn't walk in the office and just blown Dougie away in his office. No, he has to like try to take him out on the street, and I don't know. I think he's going to come back. I can't imagine that's the end of his little tale. But I do think that them getting on the live TV, I think that's going to come into play. I think the FBI is going to see him and go, wait a minute here. Here's this guy. Maybe they'll think that Dougie's the one that escaped, from the prison, and he changed his looks.
Geez. That's funny. I didn't even think about that. That's funny.
Yeah, who knows? But I think him being on TV is going to play a role.
Yeah, I agree.
As to why I think Ike acting weird, I don't know. Again, we've seen so little of him, and his brief assault on was it Lorraine? Or whoever. Right. I mean, I don't know. He seemed roughly in character to me. But the one thing I would say is because he lost his spike, maybe you could say he lost some of his magic, he lost some of his sizzle. The other notable part of that scene, though, of course, is the evolution of the arm sprouting out of the sidewalk. Squeeze his hand off.
Yeah. Now, but that is a great moment because it confirms that the lodge is on Dougie's side. As guiding him. It's helping him. It's not. It didn't throw him out there to kill him.
Right.
And it's not the doppelganger of the evolution. It is just the evolution of the tree.
That's true, because the doppelganger one was like yellow or whatever.
Right. And it makes me wonder if like this non-existent thing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because obviously, I mean, I'm sure you'll bring it up, but the fact that we finally have confirmation, Jay, thank God, that it's all one timeline.
I know. Yeah. I was wrong on that part.
No.
You, Jay, I mean, I thought it too. I think a lot of people were thinking that, so I was thinking, how can it be? But thank God it was confirmed, just so I'm not going insane going, is this a different year? Is this an alternate reality? What the hell's going on here?
I just didn't see it coming,
Well, thanks, Orc. Kind of the next big thing is we get further development. Again, this episode, I'll stick with episode, was just plowing along, tying up threads, answering questions, really driving forward. So the next part I think that's worth discussing is the Air Force lieutenant, captain, I forget exactly her rank, but Knox, Lieutenant Knox, finally shows up in North Dakota and visits with, I think, is Constance Adams the actress's name? Or I can't remember, but the actress who plays the medical examiner in North Dakota, I like her. I like that actress. Right. I think her role is funny. She shows up to check out the body up there that was putting off, basically that hit as Major Briggs' fingerprints. And we learned a couple of things here where the age of the body is, I think, what was it, late 40s, which would line up with the Major's age as of the time of the original Twin Peaks, but that should no longer be his age anymore. While she's relaying this information to her manager on the Air Force, we got special guest Pizwell. Let's join us. Hello, sir. Are you just here to be a disruptor like Orc?
Fuck
Pretty much. Here to troll, and that's it. I'm just gonna troll the whole time. Camera right up my nose. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it. There we go.
Maybe I need to apply better governance on the links I send out for these. I think.
I have a little bit of breaking news here real quick. The guy who plays the kind of ash charcoal guy that walks down the hallway in this scene that you're talking about, Eric, just recently gave an interview, and someone asked why his name appears in the credits, and he says, "My credit would give too much away." So I think
and so that was actually the part that I didn't get to, is while the Air Force lieutenant is relaying to her commander kind of what the weird situation that's going on, we start to see this like distant figure at the end of the hallway, and initially it just kind of seems like, oh, there's just someone walking down the hall, but the shot lingers in such a way that only David Lynch can do. This shadowy figure starts approaching, and when it gets close enough, we realize it looks a lot like the figure we saw in the jail cell in was it I think that was still part 1,
Yeah, it's
right?
part 1. Yeah.
All the way back in part 1, the figure who, by the way, just evaporated into smoke after we saw him for a few moments. And there was a sound of electricity crackling as he moved around too. So, his connection to the lodges or Twin Peaks is definitely, I think, been established. But who the hell he is, and man, that was a creepy scene. Like I to be honest, there was a part of me wondering if he was going to turn into the office with them and then like have everything just end, and then find out later that there was just this violent massacre in the office, and they're all dead and all ripped apart and the body's gone or something like that. But ultimately that didn't happen. But I was getting that kind of impression, like it was creepy.
Yeah. Any thoughts on who that might be?
I think it could be the log lady's husband, the one that died in the fire.
Wait a minute. Are you guys talking about an episode of Seventh Heaven?
No.
We don't cover shows starring child pedophiles, Piz. We stay away from
in that case, I'm out.
Go back to watching Jeepers Creepers. Oh my Lord. I mean, it could be anybody, but yeah. I mean, I've heard a few different theories. Some people have said, that it could be Philip Jeffries. It could be. I mean, who knows who it could be?
Right. Right. But he's related to the lodge in some way. He has to be. The electricity crackling when he's around is just a telltale sign of it.
Right.
This is why I think it's really important to watch this show with captioning, at least at some point. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the first time around, but you catch a lot of stuff that.
But
I had the volume jacked up when I watched this thing, and I didn't hear it the first time.
But the thing is, though, is that the end subtitle, where the guy comes in and asks for Bing, is actually Bing, and they mess up the subtitle because it was Billy, and Showtime put it in the wrong subtitle, and the executive producer is out there trying to confirm to everybody it's Billy he asked for. It's not Bing. Bing is the one who asked for Billy. So
okay.
Because I mean I was totally thrown because I'm going off the subtitles. Why aren't these things supposed to be checked?
Yeah. Those are sort of like, I think, the main threads of the story. Once we move away from that, that's where we start to get into things like the Ben and Jerry Horn story, which is actually how the episode opens with poor Jerry Horn high as balls in the woods of Twin Peaks. His truck is missing, and there is some wondering, I don't know that this is explicit, but there's some wondering if Richard Horn stole Jerry's truck, and that is his truck that has been used in the commission of the hit and run crime on the little boy in the previous installment. But I thought, for the people who say that there's no humor in this new Twin Peaks, like, that was friggin' hilarious.
I laugh every episode, like, crazy. But he apparently is so high, he's forgotten how to use a cell phone.
Yeah.
He's holding it like out in front of his face.
Yeah. And I'll say to you, Jay, because I don't. If you watch the show with Cameron, maybe you caught this, but I've seen a few people joke online that Jerry Horn Ben Horn is David Letterman pre-retirement, and Jerry Horn is David Letterman post-retirement, which I think is funny. I think the resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
But we do get further development on the Ben Horn storyline, inches forward, but still a little bit forward. We get more with Ashley Judd as Beverly. Essentially, they're investigating a strange sound in the Great Northern, an odd sound that, to me, super Twin Peaks fan, I was hoping to hell we got some kind of Josie Packard confirmation, because
I think we did.
I think. Well, see, and then that's the thing is what we didn't know when the scene first started is that Beverly has received, like you mentioned earlier, Cameron, Beverly has received Agent Cooper's hotel key. And so there is some theorizing that the key being back, like Josie's spirits or essence or whatever, is reacting to this this element from the past, and so she's kind of reacting with a sound. Again, I don't, Joan Chen isn't in this that we know, so I don't know that we'll ever get like an official confirmation.
I mean,
I think it is self-evident, but
well, because the last shot of that scene is the camera pushes into the wall and fades out. I mean, what was the last thing we saw come out of that wall?
Right.
And also, even in the last part of season 2, Ben Horn turns around and apparently sees Josie in his office in the wall.
Was that confirmed that he saw Josie? Is that what it was?
That's what it was supposed to be.
Okay.
They never showed it, but that's where it was going to go if there was a season 3.
Right.
Pete, I think, mentions at one point, right, that
Pete, he's like standing in front of the fireplace and he's like, Josie, I can see your face. It's
exactly.
very
so.
God,
It's there, and also the fact that the sound is very reminiscent of when the little man rubs his hands in the dream, and the little shadow of Waldo goes across the drapes.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, the lodge is and listen, when Josie died, what happened? The little man and Bob came out.
Yeah.
So there is a correlation here between the lodges and Josie as well.
That's true. And then the only other thing on a character level, we start to see good old motivator Ben Horn maybe getting his mojo back with Beverly. There definitely seems to be an attraction with Ben and Beverly. Then as we learn more about Beverly in the following scene, she had to go back to work. Her husband has cancer, or something. Again, I don't know if it's ever confirmed it's cancer, but he's very, very ill. He's very sick, and she has to work to support them. And it kind of seems like a situation where, she's going to do what she's got to do to keep the money flowing, and befriending and maybe beguiling Ben Horn is not the worst way to do it.
Listen, there's a lot of things to get flowing, and there's a lot of mojo to get back when you have Ashley Judd looking that hot in your room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm saying again, Ben's clearly aware of it. So
something I wanted to mention about that scene when we first saw Tom, I was like, when it first showed him. I was just, for some reason, I was like, it's Harry Truman.
You are not the only one.
No.
Because, we know he's ill.
Yeah.
With something that's, life, some life-ending disease. But anyway, we're not supposed to know Tom from anywhere, right? He's a new character.
Right.
Yeah, not as far as we haven't seen his connection to anyone else, so I don't think so.
No, because
I don't recognize him.
They just moved to the area anyway, I think.
That's right, because she doesn't know Laura Palmer. She doesn't have any of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. No, you're not alone, Jay. I mean, everybody immediately thought that at first, because we weren't punching in close at first, and then when we did, it was like everyone had to kind of do a squint because after Jerry looked so different, we didn't know if Michael Onken was going to look different too.
Right. And this guy's bald too. I mean, if they throw a bald cap on him, or heck, shaved his head, I mean, that might be Harry. Might look a little like that.
PSA, Cameron, you're not alone either. We're here for you, okay, buddy?
All right.
I love the Kramer-like interludes. I do appreciate it at work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I think so. The only other two threads, and Cameron, keep me honest, there was the very fun extended sequence in the Roadhouse. Mm-hmm. That's the name of that establishment.
I thought of that 2 times during this episode when they said it. He said it like 2 or 3 times when he was on the telephone, I think.
I'm not kidding you.
I'm
not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I've gotten at least 70 emails, people from all over the world, Germany, Sweden, Netherlands, who are saying when they saw that scene, they immediately thought of my videos. Mm-hmm. Everyone was on pins and needles, I guess, going, is he going to say it? Is he going to say it?
Yeah. And so this, after this breakneck pace episode, David Lynch reminds us that we are watching a David Lynch directed production.
Yeah.
And so the scene, I think Welcome to Twin Peaks, the fan page Welcome to Twin Peaks clocked it at 1 minute and 30 seconds, or maybe it was 1 minute and 40 seconds.
God, it feels longer.
Great.
Is that it?
It definitely feels longer.
I wrote down 10 minutes.
Of basically Jean-Michel Renault is sitting back at the bar doing something while someone's cleaning up at the Roadhouse, basically sweeping the floor.
But it's so well done that you almost become OCD watching that show, watching it. Like, get that spot, you missed that spot.
Like, why is it like you need a bigger broom or something? What the heck?
When I was watching that, I said, Lynch fans out there are just having a field day with this. I said, this is the easiest, simplest thing to do because we needed to fill some time.
Yep.
We're going to throw this in there for It's longer than a minute 30 seconds. I can tell you.
But I'll tell you this. I don't think it was a time filler because I think that Lynch again trolled everybody because he's got us so complacent in that moment. We're waiting for the starring Kyle MacLachlan credit to come up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come. Instead, it slows down. We get that scene. And then right after, we ratchet it back up and we go to the prison. And it's just like all of a sudden. Like,
I was like, shit, it's over already.
Yeah.
Which
and
we've been programmed to think that.
Yeah.
Right. And we actually get some interesting nuggets of plot there too, where we get the character's name confirmed. It's been in the credits, but this is another Renault brother. We get confirmation of something that we never knew before, which is that the Renault family owns the Roadhouse. That's interesting. We were talking about this on Cameron's show, and I think it's still relevant to bring up. If every Renault you've ever met is a criminal and they're all running drugs and women and all that, like, you would think that the family owning a business in town would draw police scrutiny. But then again, I guess if though, Deputy Andy is your star detective, that
I'm not sure if he's like the brother, because when Jean Renault is giving that speech to Cooper in the house, he talks about his brothers Jacques and Bernard. He doesn't mention a fourth brother, and even though yes, he is the same as Walter Olkowitz, who plays Jacques Renault. I'm almost wondering if it's a cousin or something of that nature, because
Well, again, whatever his connection, I don't
know, but they're still dealing girls.
Yeah, exactly.
He owes me for two.
He's doing the same thing he was doing with Laura Palmer. He was running women, and clearly he seems like he's got some other things going on the side. So I think again, it's just kind of nice to see that the more things change, the more they stay the same in Twin Peaks.
But why they always have him behind the bar is because the actor's leg is been hurt for a long time, and
I thought his legs he's missing. I thought his legs have been amputated.
Really?
It's just three dog legs attached to it.
Maybe that happened. I don't know. The last time I talked to him, he was like trying to get him like back.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so they stick him behind the bar. Easiest place to be.
Yeah. Brief side note on that. Since I've been rewatching Cheers, Walter Olkovic was a guest star in an episode of Cheers. So this would have been like back in like 1983, 84.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see him like that much younger. I mean, so like 8 years or so before Twin Peaks. Yeah. Still kind of a chubby dude, but
well, he was in 1941 as well with Belushi and Aykroyd and all that. So
oh wow, who was he in that movie?
One of the many guys, but
okay.
But he worked with Steven Spielberg for a long time. He worked with John Milius for a while.
Oh wow!
So, I mean, the guy got around in a good way.
Yeah.
And speaking of Cheers, real quick, John Cleese showed up for one episode of Cheers and walked away with an Emmy.
We just saw that episode. Oh, wow. It's hilarious. John Cleese is really funny. Yeah.
One episode and walked away with an Emmy.
Because we were watching it and I said, "That's John Cleese," and my wife said, "No, that's not John Cleese." I was like, "Look at him."
Yeah. He got a beard, but it's John Cleese.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Nice diversion. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was another one.
I'm a Cheers fan. Come on.
Oh yeah. We can talk about that.
That's why I don't like
all Cheers fan, but it's been a long time.
That's why I don't like all that Twin Peaks Cheers talk. Everyone's like, "Oh, it was Twin Peaks versus Cheers." No, it really wasn't.
No,
Twin Peaks and Oranges,
completely different shows.
Why? Yeah.
No, because they played at the same time for a while.
Oh, right.
And it was like, okay, well, I know Cheers is going to be rerun at some point. Yeah. Twin Peaks does not.
Yeah, exactly. Especially by that point. I mean, Cheers was in its what, like 9th or 10th season by that point. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so like you said, Cameron, we transitioned from the Roadhouse, emphasize that, back to the prison in North Dakota, where in the previous part, actually no, I'm sorry, we actually skipped over a whole sequence there where Doppel Cooper earlier in the installment met with the warden and basically kind of revealed some ominous information that seemed to scare the hell out of the warden and convince the warden to essentially let him out. And so we move from that. We move from the Roadhouse into a sequence, a very creepy, well shot sequence where, essentially Doppel Cooper escapes from the prison, and he brings his buddy. Oh, looks like we lost Cameron. But anyway, he brings his buddy, that guy Ray, who we haven't seen I think since part 2.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, And frankly, this seems like it's all going according to the doppelganger's plan. I mean, again, I don't know that he quite planned to crash his car and throw up cream corn and all that other stuff, but he, he clearly was heading for that prison. Oh no, that's fine. You're fine. He was clearly heading to that prison already, and he ended up in the prison. But his goal was still to acquire Ray, because Ray has the information he wants. But he also knows now that Ray's trying to kill him. So the special friend in the glove box, I'm sure, will make an appearance in the next installment.
There's a reason why the doppelganger sat in that seat too, in the passenger seat.
He's not driving. He's the passenger. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, just a great sequence, very chilling, and just a testament to, like, whenever I see the doppelganger, like, again, I know it's Kyle MacLachlan, but I really do see a completely different character. Like, I don't see Agent Cooper. Like, I see this other guy.
And it's not the hair. Yeah. It's not just the hair.
Yeah.
It's everything about it.
I really love your theory on the why his voice sounds so odd. Also, the electricity.
And it's funny, like, it kind of just came to me when we were talking about it the other day, because we've seen him talk now. Mm-hmm. Again, when he was talking to the warden, he sounded like he did in the previous installments. But whenever he gets in that room where he's talking to the people through the glass, where there's, like, the microphone is translating him, that's where he comes off like this.
Yeah, it's deeper. It's definitely deeper.
Right. Yeah. And I just wonder if it's a subtle clue, like that. Hey, listen. This guy doesn't belong, and so when his voice gets translated through the system, again, because these guys can move through electricity or whatever that relationship is, that's a clue. It's kind of it's highlighting the fact that there's something wrong about this guy. He doesn't come through quite right.
Can I get 100%? Can I get a This is my prediction. I rarely make predictions about upcoming episodes. My prediction is that Doppelganger is going to shoot Ray, and Jennifer Jason Leigh is going to eat him alive. I just want to see Jennifer Jason Leigh jump out of a car and just rip Ray apart and eat him.
Well, I think the first part is undoubtedly going to come true. The second part's on the boulders.
You really hit me out of the blue on that one. I wasn't expecting
Jennifer Jason Leigh. Listen, you don't cast Jennifer Jason Leigh unless you're gonna either do something horrible to her or let her do horrible things.
There you go. Nailed it.
So I want to see her be what the hell is, I can't remember her name now. No, I'm thinking of the Jeremiah Raines character in Last House on the Left, Sadie. I want her to be like Sadie in Last House on the Left.
I think of her in like Hateful Eight, man. She was batshit in that one.
Oh, when she has no teeth and she's like, all is covered in blood and meat. Oh,
yeah.
I told my wife, I said the worse that Jennifer Jason Leigh looks, the more horrible things that happen to her, the hotter she gets.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But again, another good sequence there, and I think you're exactly right, because earlier the doppelganger told her he needed her, and was her and her husband, I guess,
which is probably Tim Roth.
That's the assumption, that they have to meet him somewhere. So either they're gonna help him kill Ray, or they're gonna dump the body, or they're gonna help him, whatever the next phase of his plan. Which, again, like, I think, going into this, I think you would have assumed that the doppelganger, it would be leading to a confrontation with Coop, which I still think is happening, but it probably won't happen the way, it traditionally does. But that, he'd be trying to stay out of the lodge. Well, I mean, at this point, that story's over. I mean, he did it. He substituted Dougie for himself, and now our Cooper and the doppelganger are back in our world. And, I just find myself wondering, like, what the heck is this guy up to? Like, what is he doing? Like,
I don't know, but I have this really scary feeling that that if he sees the Cooper out there as Dougie, like on TV, if he sees that, then he may be inspired to cut his hair similar, dress up in a suit, and go back to Twin Peaks, because he knows that Diane and Gordon, all them, are on his tail now.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely going to happen.
And I think all those scenes that we see in those Showtime teasers of him driving in the car, looking paranoid in the mirror, I don't think that's going to be real Cooper. I think that's going to be the doppelganger going back and causing some shit in our town.
Oh man, I don't like the sound of that at all. But yeah, that would be. I mean, again, that would be smart, because that's the other thing too, is like I sort of wonder, like, why if he altered his appearance so that he could kind of escape detection as Cooper, or what? Because it seems odd that he would have, transformed his appearance so much.
Well, I think he was just. Honestly, I thought it wasn't. It was Bob not having to hide in Leland anymore. It was Bob just able to be free, and he just let his hair grow and took his. I just thought it was like Bob just being Bob out there in the world. He couldn't be Frank Silva, obviously, so we'll have Kyle just look like Frank Silva.
That's true. That's good. Yeah.
Because he had to hide inside Leland to be in this attorney, for the Great Northern. He couldn't have, right. So,
yeah, and so then ultimately the installment ends with the scene we were mentioning earlier at the Double R Diner, where it's just Shelley and the crew serving up dinner. And I can tell you that Tweed's Cafe's got some good food.
Yep.
I ordered an open-faced roast beef sandwich there one time, and I'm not kidding. The entire plate. Everything from edge to edge of the plate covered in gravy. I didn't know what I was sticking my fork into. Like I got the plate and it was kind of like, am I gonna get beef or mashed potatoes? It was beautiful. I love that.
I'm gonna go up there and order that, Eric. I'm gonna go up there and order that.
Absolutely do. It was delicious. Their gravy was great. The food was good.
I would really like to see you scout some locations if you get some time.
I know. I've been asking him for years now. Go up there. But I will say this though, Jay, did you catch the cool Stephen King reference in that scene?
Mm-mm.
They're playing Sleepwalk from Sleepwalkers.
Oh yeah,
and Machen Amick was in it. She was the lead girl, and so that was
that movie.
Yeah, no, but it was just so funny to me. It's like they're playing that. It's like one of the few times that they've ever played source music in the Twin Peaks environment without it being Badalamenti scores. So yeah, that was kind of a new thing. And then with that whole, and then I just watched the end of the episode. I thought it was kind of cute. And then I started getting contacted by everyone. Did you notice all the people changing? And I was like, okay. And then I went back and looked at it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so scary.
Yeah.
And
like
so random.
Everybody changes. Like the whole
3
complement
times.
of the restaurant, changes. And like we were saying, Shelley notices it. Shelley's like walking towards the door, and then she comes back up the galley, and she does that move like just after it happened, and she reacts to it, which there's a part of me because Jay says this a lot, and I know Cameron, you and I like to get into the weeds, but there just is a part of me that thinks sometimes that David Lynch really is just trolling us. Like the significance is nothing more than just like, I bet these people are gonna scour that shot for hours to figure out what I'm up to.
It means something when it means nothing. It was it worked at the moment,
But what I'm saying though is it could mean literally nothing in terms of plot, but it does mean something in terms of, listen, there are 2 Coopers out there in the world right now.
Right?
Then we had the shot in this episode of not the hotel and the waterfall, but the waterfall and then the hotel when it was an inch apart. It's almost like we're getting 2 of things that we're not supposed to have 2 of. And so it might not mean anything plot wise, but it might mean just a subconscious feeling of unease of what's going on.
Or maybe even it just to follow along, like maybe it does affect something plot wise, Cameron. Because what if, and I don't know how big of a Fringe fan you were, and again, I'm not. David Lynch definitely wouldn't like copy a TV show, but the storyline in Fringe, for people who haven't seen it, was kind of about like the FBI investigating weird phenomena. But as the show went on, it kind of became apparent that there was a parallel universe, Earth, where things went a little bit differently, and the fact that there was like a gateway between worlds was having real world impacts on the world. Like, city, buildings were collapsing, and, things that, things from the 2 worlds were trying to overlap each other and would kill people. Just weird things were happening. And I wonder if, to your point, the fact that, you're not supposed to have the doppelganger and the original out in the world at the same time, there are effects that, again, it might just seem like, just the people change in the diner, or, the camera shows us a shot of a waterfall, then it shows us the hotel. Maybe we're starting to get like these subtle kind of disorienting images to show us the world is not as it should be because, there's this thing that's happened. That's excellent.
And the fact that Shelley turns around and she's not like, whoa, she just kind of takes a look and goes, okay. Like this has been happening for a long time.
Right. Either that or she notices it, but like she is also affected by it. Like she notices it, and then it's kind of like, you think about like deja vu. When you first have deja vu, it's like, oh man, wait, did that just happen? And then you kind of, oh, well, okay. And then you just kind of go on with your day. Maybe it's a similar thing where Shelley's a part of it. We didn't see her change exactly, but whatever's happening, if there's something happening, she's aware enough to notice it, but then just, oh gosh, it's just me, I guess, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating stuff. I'm glad we talked about this because we didn't get even this deep on the show the other night, and this is a whole other layer I wasn't thinking about. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I know the double cut where it showed the waterfall, then the hotel and the waterfall. It was not very aesthetically pleasing. So
right. It called attention.
It definitely probably is something there because I didn't like it the way it looked. It kind of threw me.
Well, because it's kind of like it's an inch apart, right? I mean, literally, it seems like an inch apart, and it's almost like, okay, I once saw a wedding video made by a company, and they put like the couple was at a table. They put the camera right in front of them, and they put another camera right to the right of that camera. So when it cut back and forth between the two cameras, it was like going from left eye to right eye. And that's right. And it was just jarring. Like, what the hell are you doing? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it felt like with that hotel shot. Because like Lynch does not cut like that. And that's not something that he always goes from the hotel to the falls, or he does one lock shot of the hotel and falls, which is so easy to get.
Yeah.
To do that is purposeful filmmaking. He's not that lazy.
Yeah. With Lynch, even just basic shot composition means something. Mm-hmm. So if he's doing that, even if it's a subtle thing, he's conveying something. Again, maybe we're hitting on it, maybe we're way off the mark, but
it doesn't matter. But to Jay's point, though, it doesn't need to have a concrete answer like this is why things are happening. But I think it just gives you the feeling of unease.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And if that's all it is, if it's not a plot point, listen, it's accomplishing that because I'm feeling unease watching the show.
Yeah.
I never know if it's going to be a scene that's going to make me laugh or they're going to run over a kid. So.
Yeah. Well, it's you go back to that scene in the morgue where you're kind of watching and paying attention to the woman on the phone, and I originally I think I even said to my wife, I was like, oh, that's just some guy. Then you're sitting there watching it and you're paying attention to the dialogue and it's like, is that just some guy? And then it's like, because Cameron, I remember your reaction. You had a very visceral reaction. You were like, I'm like getting uncomfortable as the guy's like approaching. Like I started feeling that way. It's like, well, hold on a second. What's happening here?
Well, I thought we were going to get a Mulholland Drive moment.
Exactly. But like you say, shot composition. Lynch framed the shot very, very, very. He did it intentionally. Like that whole left side was there, so we could watch this whatever the guy is come at us.
And he's slowly walking.
This is why Lynch is never talked about as a horror director, but I think he's a great horror filmmaker.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up because especially with Jay and again we can have our obligatory Friday the 13th reference or horror film reference. That it's so true. Like some of the scariest things I've seen. Movie wise or on TV have been made by David Lynch. I distinctly recall, and I might have said this on your show before, Cameron, but I definitely haven't said it here. When I first watched the second season finale of Twin Peaks, that was after I had, we did watch it on DVD. We got that last episode. I was there with my friend and my wife, then girlfriend. And we were just watching it, and when we get into that that final 20 minutes in the red room, like very specific. I still feel like I think I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about just that shot of like Laura where she's like angled weirdly on the couch. Meanwhile, and then just that scream.
Yeah.
Like the hair on the back of my neck is standing up right now just thinking about it. And I remember when she rushed at the camera. Mm-hmm. Like my wife like shot back into the couch because and again I was freaked out too. I don't want to pick up my wife, but again that's just and again think of how minimalistic it is. It's just like trippy lighting and just this girl with weird she's got like weird contacts in or something and just this unsettling scream and he's terrified you. like he truly, like, David Lynch does not get enough credit, I think, in the horror realm. I think you're spot on, Cameron. I mean, that's not all he does. I think he makes movies and
take Twin Peaks out of it. I mean, look at that scene in Lost Highway when the mystery man goes up to Fred and says, "I'm at your house. Call me." Right? Yeah. It's a pretty scary scene.
Lost Highway is probably the most closely related to horror thing he's done. But it's not easy to do, to set tension up. Say what you want. It's not easy to do that. It's I don't know about you guys, but when Diane was talking to Doppelganger Cooper in the prison, man, I got chills. It was, and then it went straight from that to Diane's reaction. She was talking to Gordon, and it was very, very emotional.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, from being really creeped out, really feeling for her character.
First off, just right in that scene, you had 2 Emmy winners because her reaction shots were so visceral, and then just again, it was terrible, but it was beautiful because it was just Kyle MacLachlan acting his ass off. That, like, I remember that night. I'll never forget it. Like such an asshole. But I mean, like, just so spot on, so creepy, so good, so slimy.
But again, I think it works because that's also Jeffrey and Sandy sitting there from Blue Velvet.
Right.
It's 30 years ago we saw these 2 together. We know that these actors dated.
Yeah.
For a brief time. So I think this is why it works. It's not so much like we're just watching Diane confront this doppelganger. It's the fact that these are actors that we've been following for 30 years.
Yep.
That we know they both have a long history with David Lynch. Yeah. We have a long history of watching them in movies and in David Lynch world. Yeah. And here we are, and we are put in camera angles between her and him.
Yeah.
And so she's talking to him, he's talking to her, but we're in the middle of this conversation between these 2 people, and it just hits us on so many levels. Yeah. And that's what Lynch's work does that other filmmakers don't do, is he's hitting us on like 47 levels at one time.
Right.
So yeah, that's some scary stuff right there, because I'm scared to death what he did to her.
See, and I bet we never find out.
That's fine.
I bet we never find out what happened to the warden. I bet we never find out any of that.
Well, you know what? We don't really need to know anything what happened with the warden, except to know that it was strong enough to make him just let him walk out.
But I'm so interested. I want to know what happened.
Well, what I would guess is, and I don't know this, but what I would guess is that maybe we get that in like Mark Frost's book. I don't know how much more we're going to learn about Mr. Strawberry and some of that other stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get more details on things like that. Yeah. In Mark Frost's book.
In Wild at Heart, we don't learn about Mr. Reindeer very much. It's just, it is what it is,
Right.
So I'm okay with that, because it was obviously enough to make him so scared that he would go against the FBI's wishes and let him out.
Yeah. And first off, let's just say a testament to that actor, and I need to look up who he is. I've seen him in other things too, but like, clearly the direction from Lynch was, when he says this to you, this is the most frightening thing you've ever heard, because the look on the actor's face, like, was terror. Like, this guy is plugged into something. My apologies. I was distracted because someone in the live chat made a comment that, what if Dick Tremaine was right? What if Nikki is evil and Bob is Nikki's patsy? Mind blown.
Hey, I think little Nikki is red. All grown up, the one that flips the coin.
That, if they did that, I would clap. Like, holy cow! Because I've been so mad the whole time that I feel like they're gonna cut certain things out that they don't like. And frankly, I think they've already sort of done that. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Wyndham Earl reference yet. But like, I think if they really wanted to troll people, take these things that people hated. And like, hell, let's have Evelyn show up at this point.
That's true. He's trying to avoid season 2 as much as possible.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more Fire Walk With Me in there than I thought there would be. I thought they would kind of try to avoid some of that, but
well, no, like, listen, don't get Cameron on his soapbox, which, by the way, I agree with, but like, Lynch, I think he takes Fire Walk With Me personally. Like, that was a movie that I think he was very upset about the reaction to, and he's gonna like nail us in the face with that movie. Like, no, this is important.
What's weird, I was looking at that movie the other day, and all the people that have scenes deleted out of that movie that are in the missing pieces, Like there was a lot of footage to that movie that didn't make it in. Like
there's a lot more too that didn't show us.
Yeah.
How long was that movie supposed to be? I mean,
well, it was
like 18
originally
hours. Like this thing.
It was originally 4.5. The rough cut.
That's
of it.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, and I don't know what actually. And Cameron, do you know? Like, why is that?
what?
Was the thought that would maybe be 2 movies, or did
Mm.
he just was an embarrassment of riches? Like he had, he just shot all this stuff and figured he'd find a way to make it work. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Who makes a 4.5-hour movie? Expecting to kind of loop it all in.
Blue Velvet was 4 hours and it's rough cut, and Wild at Heart was 4 hours and it's rough cut, and
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the screenplay is called Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, Teresa Banks, and The Last 7 Days of Laura Palmer.
Right.
Which, I mean, that was never going to be on the marquee, but that gives you the impression that he was going for this huge epic story, of what he wanted to do. I think I do think that this new series though makes Fire Walk With Me look even better. In many ways.
Well, the fact that
it's fleshing out Philip Jeffries.
The thing that always frustrated me about Fire Walk With Me, and I've said this to you before, Cameron, is that as Twin Peaks season 2 ends, I feel like, again, first let's assume that period of time before I had seen Fire Walk With Me. I feel like I have a pretty good grounding of the events and the things that I have seen. Again, I definitely don't fully understand the Black Lodge and what it is and who these the various entities in them, what do they want. But I mean, Owl Cave, we start to learn that, if anything, that stuff peels back the mystery on Laura Palmer, that Bob got to Laura Palmer, but he's part of this, deeper, mythology and evil and presence in the woods. We go to Fire Walk With Me, and I just feel like things I thought I understood, I don't. Because you got the little man, formica table and electric, all this shit that it's kind of like I thought I understood. There's a struggle between good and evil and some of these other things. And then Fire Walk With Me comes along, and it's wait a second, electricity and the camera's going down his mouth
and owl rings
and there's a bat boy and what the hell is going on? And so
a bat boy.
Well, not a bat boy, but there's a shot. Oh, the monkey. I'm sorry.
Oh,
the
one
shot
that
of
says
the
Judy?
monkey face. Yeah.
Oh, the monkey face. That's creepy as hell.
Yeah, I don't it kind of upset me because the show ended on this horrible cliffhanger, and he had an opportunity to make the movie, and then the movie just it's like he took what the show did and he just mussed it up. And what
I'm saying though is this new series though makes Fire Walk With Me. It kind of places it more on a coherent timeline.
It does sort of. I still need to see more. Yeah, I mean, generally yes, but there's more this series needs to do for me to clean that up. I mean, I
honestly think the problem with Fire Walk With Me is not necessarily the movie itself, but the fact is that they had to trim it down so much. I think if it was maybe 230, 245 and could kind of smooth it out a little bit, maybe it wouldn't be so jarring.
Yeah. Well, I think even if if you said, Eric, make one change to that movie to make it better, I think I would add in the full Philip Jeffries scene. Because as it is in the movie, I don't know what the hell happens in that scene.
It's so short. They should have just cut it out.
Right.
I don't know if it sounds blasphemy, but
it's kind of like it almost seems to me like David Lynch, he got David Bowie in his movie. He wanted that character to be there, but he didn't really have enough time because again, he was forced to cut it down. He didn't really have the time to really deliver on it. So he kind of hacked together this thing that, again, I know that, folks like John Thorne out there have written a thesis on this damn scene, but I still don't, again, when you watch a movie, obviously, you have your interpretation of it and different people can bring different things and, maybe you watched it a few times, understand it, but I shouldn't have to bring my theology textbook to the movie theater to understand a scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest issues with that movie I remember one of my good friends back at that time, he said to me, regardless of all the, like you said, the mythology being this and that, and things seem to be changed and all that. Yeah, I mean, one is just real quick. I do like the fact that the movie does clarify that the good Dale is in the lodge, so he didn't get possessed by Bob. That actually made my heart feel good.
That's true.
But my friend said to me, it doesn't even feel like Twin Peaks. It doesn't even feel like the same town. They filmed this in another town. I was like, no, it's because they filmed it in the fall and not in the springtime.
Right.
So it felt different. It doesn't feel like Snoqualmie,
Well, part of it is it feels empty.
Yeah.
Now, I would argue, and again, I was just tearing the movie down. I'll defend the movie now a little bit. The film is very much like, I almost feel like calling Firewalk. They should have called it Laura Palmer, honestly, because I feel like Fire Walk with Me is almost a Laura Palmer spin-off movie, because the town figures into it very little. And the town is basically empty for most of the movie. And I think it is, because like we were saying, David Lynch doesn't do anything unintentionally. We're supposed to feel Laura's loneliness, her isolation, her fear, that the being cut off. So the fact that like Laura is largely, alone, there's really no one else around. I mean, think of the Double R Diner. Whenever, especially by the end of season 2, it seemed like the Double R Diner, there was always a million people in there. There's guys going, "Damn, that pie is good." There's weird characters like this. Whereas we go in there and Fire Walk with Me, and it's just it's Norma and Shelley. There might have been like one old guy in there,
desolate.
And it's deserted. It even looks kind of dirty and dingy, which it never did. Not even in the pilot.
No.
And so it just very much seems like it was a deliberate choice by Lynch, and I understand why. Again, given the subject matter of the movie, but I'm with your friend. He's right. I mean, it gives off a different feel, but it's intentional.
Yeah. No.
I think that is very intentionally done.
Yeah. But I also think that's why Lynch was okay with cutting out so many other characters, because it kept that theme of isolating her.
Right. Right. Even though there were great scenes cut out, we've talked about that. But, in any case, Jay, what are your thoughts on part 7? If you want to close that out for us, Cameron, I'll come back to you too.
I really enjoyed it. I was going to say this earlier. I'm enjoying the episodes more, or parts, as each one comes out. So
right.
I'm really getting excited. And we're going to be learning more and more as it goes on.
And after this Sunday, we have a 2-week break.
Okay.
I guess it's for 4th of July.
Well, they could just show an hour of Jock sweeping the floor.
Oh, Showtime should do that. Dear God, that would be amazing to just tune in and on live Showtime from 9 to 10 o'clock. It's just that shot on repeat. That would be amazing.
Wait,
talk
you know what?
Talk about comedy. That would be great.
Eric, you're now going to inspire one of your watchers to take that scene and stream it on YouTube for 10 straight hours.
Well, what's funny about that, Cameron, is that remember you and I we were arguing a little bit about the scene where Doppelganger Cooper kills the mechanic guy, and he squishes his face. Someone on YouTube, and he didn't take it for 11 hours, but he did make the clip 15 minutes. It's basically just that for 15 minutes straight of just recutting that.
That's hilarious.
Did you guys see if it cuts or if that is what killed him? I thought it cut myself.
Yeah, me too.
Let's go back and watch it, because I would swear at the end of the scene, and it's one of those very subtle David Lynch things. If you're watching the guy, it seems like he is frozen in place, because his face has been moving, but now he's not moving at all. And it just seems so weird that he's squeezing his. Clearly, he's running some kind of mojo on him or whatever. But
only David Lynch can pull some stuff like that, and people think it's great.
You're gonna kill a man by squishing his lips.
Well, this is why all those critics came out about Lynch being a misogynistic person with this show, because they said he kills a guy off screen, but he shoots a woman on the head on screen. That kind of talk. So
that's
yeah.
But I think it was a great episode. I mean, I still love episode 4 a lot with all that Gordon Cole and Albert talk. So basically, I guess what it is that even though I love the doppelganger stuff and all that, and I think it's strong, incredibly great stuff, and I like all the Dougie stuff as well, I think that the strongest episodes so far have been the Gordon Albert ones with.
And do you know why, though? Because we talked about this a little bit.
Because David Lynch is a good actor.
Well, that. But the episode, when you have a story You have to have like a story needs someone propelling the plot.
Mm.
When Gordon and Albert are on screen, even if they're just standing around looking at Christabel's ass, they're in the midst of doing something.
Right.
They're in the midst of, we are like, okay, we have found a guy. We need to understand who he is. We are tracking something down, or we're going to find Diane, or we're doing this. Like, these guys are actually pushing the story forward, or at least their stories forward.
Mm-hmm.
Every other storyline, and I'm enjoying the show. I very much like it. This part was my favorite by a lot. And I think because it started tying some of the threads together, I think it kind of rewarded our patience in the first 6 parts. But, all the other storylines, once the doppelganger got sidelined, because he too had been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
His story was very propulsive. He's, oozing from scene to scene, clearly doing something. We don't know what it is. But then he got in the car crash and was sidelined and just hanging out in prison for a couple episodes. His story, I think, will be even better now that he's out on the road, out back in the world, pulling some crimes or doing whatever he's doing.
But he knows that the FBI is on his tail now.
Right. Something else to propel the plot. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was an incredibly strong episode. I've been the last 6 episodes have been more or less like, it kind of goes and then it kind of goes up and then it kind of goes. And this one just felt like it was moving.
Yes.
Like it almost felt like the back half of season 1, where it was like the plot is now moving. We don't have time for surrealistic craziness. We got to move. We got to go. And so I enjoyed that. Just the fact is some episodes, like I thought the previous episode it was great, but it was a meandering episode. It was Cooper drawing chutes and ladders and that type of thing. And now it was like you were like leaned forward in the chair, like, oh my God, the implications. Did he rape Diane? Did he rape Audrey? What happened to Annie? And the fact is you're getting this feeling like the doppelganger sought out the women that were important in Cooper's life and probably destroyed them in some ways.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think, again, definitely probably the strongest of the returns so far. And I'm bummed that apparently we're going to have a break after this week, but still, I'm definitely excited to see more. Well, Cameron, I don't know if you need to drop, but definitely thank you for contributing. You're definitely welcome to hang out with us here as we dive into some TV
We're talking
comedies.
about Ray Donovan coming up right now.
Are you talking? Are you talking just all TV comedies, or are you looking at specific ones?
Well, so we're rather than, because our previous installments we've been doing kind of a focus on a particular show. We wanted to make it more of a topic this week and discuss, TV comedies that are actually worth your time. So it's like, if you have some time to see a new comedy you haven't seen before or whatever, these are the ones you should probably check out because they're worth it.
Well, I wouldn't know about new comedies, but I will say that if anyone hasn't. And I know everyone has seen this show, but I mean, go back now as an adult and watch this show. Three's Company is one of the greatest freaking shows ever. John Ritter is, listen, I loved him as a kid, but when you watch him as an adult, you realize just how hard that is a role to play, not only physically, but the fact is that he's got to play kind of like this lecherous guy who's hitting on his roommates all the time, but he's always likable. You never hate him. He never comes across as a scummy jerk.
What I think is really funny about that is there's a similar situation on Cheers. And I, as a younger person, I didn't really pick up on it like I am now as we're kind of rewatching the series. But, Sam is just gaming on women all the time. Now, again, I'm almost at the season 5 finale here, and I know there is a little bit of a change in the show.
You've seen the show before, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I have.
Okay.
But again, as a kid, it was just kind of like, oh, haha, funny jokes, and Carla makes fun of Cliff and all these other things. But here, like, first of all, Cheers wouldn't exist in its current form now. The SJWs would come after Sam. He's a misogynist. He uses women. He's a jerk.
He's a real alcoholic, too.
Completely. And he's an alcoholic. Well, because the thing that was shocking to me, and again, my apologies going down the Cheers rabbit hole, but the season 2 finale of Cheers is after, basically, in season 1, Sam and Diane are kind of playing off each other. There's flirting. And then in season 2, they actually get together, and they're together that whole season. But then at the end of season 2, they just get into this fight, like, and it's actually over several episodes at the end, but the final scene of season 2 is this really, really bad fight. Like, it was so it actually made me really uncomfortable to watch. Their acting was superb, but also if this wouldn't air on network TV now, because I think Sam would have been perceived as abusive. He actually slaps Diane.
Oh, really?
It's played for laughs where they're slapping each other. Basically, she slaps him and he slaps her. Again, he doesn't like whack her, but he hits her. I mean, he hits her. And several times, and he says some just like really awful things to her. And it's funny because, you know, the Sam Malone character, even though Sam and Diane definitely did share, you know, lead status on the show, they, you know, Sam is the lead, right? He just is. You know, all the characters like him. He kind of propels the plot. Diane's the, you know, annoying person the other characters pick on. But, you know, you kind of, for me, watching it, I felt really bad for Diane. It was kind of like, you know what? She should leave him. Like, this guy's a dick. Like, and again, I like that. That was just a tough scene to watch. Well, because it's, you know, and especially it's Ted Danson too. Like, Ted Danson's funny. He's charming. You know, you see him in all kinds of other things. But he's really funny on Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know.
But I'll say this about Cheers. There's two Cheers, right? There's the Sam Diane Cheers, and then there's the Sam Rebecca Cheers.
Right.
I like the whole thing, but if you were to ask me which one I like more, I like the Sam Rebecca years more. Because the drama of him and Shelley Long is so dark at times, like you say.
Yes.
Right? That when you listen, I want to hang out with Norman, Cliff, and Woody. I don't want Frasier to be the bad guy like he is in Cheers.
What's funny is he sort of is, but I never perceived him as a villain. Like, he never comes off that way.
But he's kind of he's kind of the guy that Sam has the challenge for Diane. I liked it better when Frasier's hanging out with Lilith and they're getting in games and they're getting in like stupid turf war games with Gary's Tavern. That is the Cheers I love.
Yes.
Right? The dark, dreary Shelley Long years. I mean, like, some people say, oh, that's my favorite. But after Diane left, I was out. After Diane left, I thought the show got more fun. It became like Married with Children. There's the Marcy and Steve years, and there's the Jefferson and Marcy years. When Jefferson's there, the show got even more fun.
Right.
And I think that's what happened.
I agree with that.
The second, I think the last 4 years of Cheers was probably like the best seasons they ever had, because it was just outrageous. You know.
So what I've read. And again, I've seen various episodes throughout all the seasons of Cheers. So I've seen Sam and Diane episodes, Sam Rebecca episodes. Heck, what got me onto it is I started watching Frasier, and then I thought to myself, "Damn it, I need to go back. I want to go back to the beginning, and then I'll catch up and I'll do the whole thing." But what I started reading is that, you know, Diane was, you know, kind of Sam's, you know, hot and heavy love,
right?
Whereas they cast Kirstie Alley more to be kind of like Sam's like sexy sister. You know, they don't really play up that relationship with them. She's a completely different character, and she is.
Right.
But I'm kind of interested to see.
But it took away the drama of it, which maybe to some people was kind of a bad thing. But for me, it just made it a comedy sitcom. It was fun. It didn't become this dreary thing in the back room where everyone's feelings were getting hurt, or you know, they're on a boat or something like that with Sam and Diane. It's like, you know, I want it to be more of like Norman, Cliff, and the gang playing jokes on each other. Like that to me is Cheers.
Yeah, I could appreciate both.
Yeah,
I think you need a good balance of both to have a good show.
Yeah.
So,
but it is, there's so few series where you can literally cut it in half with a knife and say, this is this section and this is this section. A lot of shows blend it, whereas I think Married with Children definitely had the split. Cheers had the split. So, I mean, you can like the Jefferson
shows like that have that. That's
I mean, you can like the Stephen Marcy stuff. I love that stuff. But then when he left and became Jefferson, it took it to a whole other level of fun.
Yeah. So. Well, isn't there like a not a meme, but a trope that the guy who played Jefferson, why can't I think of his name? That all he does is kill shows. Ted McGinley. Like all Ted McGinley does is kill shows.
No, because
like every show he's ever on, like it all gets canceled or something.
Yeah, okay, but
except for Married with Children. Again,
Married with Children was on there for like 8 years.
Yeah, right. So. No. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, but like that's.
And he hasn't aged one day.
He still looks pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course he was the total great asshole jock in Revenge of the Nerds, which is just one of my favorite movies of all time.
He was. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So. Well, but TV comedies, yeah. I mean, I you can go as silly as like Different Strokes and Silver Spoons. Grew up watching that stuff. To I don't know. I mean, you can go into Arrested Development. I mean, the show's just changed. The comedy, what a comedy is, went from Mork and Mindy to South Park to you know.
Well, this is why I'm glad I've got and again, I'm not picking on you guys for being older, but this is why I'm glad actually we all cover different age ranges, because I look at the list I assembled of show, and again, I don't know that I put them in like order of most favorite, but I just again, I want you guys to maybe give me like your, you know, some shows that you think of like that, you know, if people are going to check out a comedy and they haven't seen it, like these are the ones to watch. Like on my list, I have a huge list, but I'll just rattle off 5 of them. So I've got the U.S. The Office, although I would count the British Office too. I think that's a really solid show, a really solid comedy. I'd list Parks and Recreation. I'd list Arrested Development. I'd list Community. And I have more than 5 here, but I'll hold back and we can talk more. I think I'll list Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like I think. Again, don't read into that order, but I mean, for me, if you're looking to laugh and you're looking to have a good time watching some shows, and especially, you know, all these shows are, you know, just 30 minutes. You know, I think you could do worse than to watch those.
But you know, the thing is, like for instance, like the Office, the U.S. Office, the first 3 seasons are masterful.
Yes,
and then it plummeted.
Well, see, so I disagree that it's
funny.
Plummeted.
No, I mean it's funny still, but it's just and they killed their own show. And I'm not talking about Michael Scott leaving, because Michael Scott leaving could have taken that show into Cheers, Rebecca years.
I completely agree on that.
It could have been it could have been the Jefferson thing, because my idea was put I can't remember his name. Who was that old guy that like always says Creed. Okay, you make Creed the boss, and you put him in the office, and you shut the door, and you have everything not in the office anymore. You have it out there with everybody else, and maybe Creed comes out and says 1 or 2 stupid things, and that's it. Like you know, but keep the focus on the crew. But no, they had to make it this James Spader thing and make Ed Helms the guy. They killed their own show.
That right there, I will say that was a down part of the show, but I do think it picked back up a few seasons after that. See, the thing about The Office, and I think is what is a staple of a good comedy, is the ensemble cast.
Yep.
That show, I love all of the characters in that show. Like Michael Scott's gone, okay, that's fine, but we still have, you know, Dwight and even the other, you know, Meredith, you know, some of the other characters in the background that I love so much.
But the problem was season 8 just was not funny at all. Like you can hear a pin drop through that whole season.
This is, again, if we're going to talk about The Office, like
was that D'Angelo, the season with D'Angelo?
No, the way that it happens is basically Michael didn't leave at the end of the 7th season. He left with like 3 or 4 episodes remaining in season 7. And so D'Angelo came in and they overlapped. And so you had Steve Carell and Will Ferrell playing off each other for a couple episodes, which already was kind of funny, but there was some like, I don't know, like there was some shark jumping going on there. But then D'Angelo got injured. And then Dwight was the boss for 1 episode. A fantastic episode. A hilarious episode, by the way. You know, my view, Cameron, on that, by the way, is that I think they should have just done away with the whole, oh, no, like, not Dwight. I think they should have embraced Dwight as the boss. I think the final seasons of the show would have been hilarious with Dwight as the boss.
You know what? They could have done that. The problem was Ed Helms was coming off the Hangover movies, and he was the hot star, and he was going to walk. And they made him a deal to have him stay and be the boss. And they tried to make
Ed Helms is the reason why the show didn't make it.
Yeah, and he is not Michael Scott. You know, I loved Andy in season 3 when he had those anger problems and was hitting the walls and things.
Yes.
You know, and it just everybody looked bored. John Krasinski wanted to move on and do other things, and to me, I felt like They could have taken it 4 more years or so, Married with Children style, if they just embraced the lunacy of it, as opposed to getting bogged down into that James Spader thing. And, you know, I mean, the NBC made James Spader deal. We're going to, you know, we'll let you off this show. We'll give you the blacklist because it just was not working out.
Right. Well, so the only thing I would say is that when Ed Helms showed up as Andy in season 3 of The Office, Andy became my favorite character on The Office.
He's great.
He was hilarious. Like, you know, the singing, the way Jim was messing with him, the anger problems, and then when he came back after the anger problems, there's that whole episode where it's like the him and Dwight like shun, unshun, like that. There's just a ton of great material with him, and I think up until he became the boss, Andy was still a really solid character. Because just for example, like the one episode that I always think of, it's just a really funny quote, is when Andy and Kevin basically take on the problem of WB Jones, one of the other businesses in the business park, like has got like construction trucks renovating his office or something, and so they can't park in the lot, so they have to walk, and they're complaining about it. So they hold this meeting with everybody to try and fix it. At the end, Andy gives this like little speech. He's like, "Did I do this for me? No, I did this for that guy in the $800 a month apartment, wondering how he's gonna pay his mortgage, how he's gonna pay for his kids' orphanage bills." And he rattles off like this nonsense for like 2 minutes. And Andy was full of that stuff throughout the whole show, throughout seasons 3 through 7. When you start getting into season 8, the problem is that the writers changed Andy. If the Andy of the previous seasons had been the boss, it would have been great. Because, like, for example, there's an episode in season 8 where the opening is hilarious, and it's exactly something Andy would do, where it's like 5 o'clock, and Andy he comes out and he wants everybody to sing Closing Time. And he's got like a mop out, and he's like doing the floor, and he gets Stanley singing with him. Like, that is something the character of Andy would have done. And if his tenure as the boss had been more like that, and less like where he's like driving down to Florida to get Aaron and doing all this stupid, like, it was just nonsense.
But see, the other thing I think that happened is season 4, which I really loved, which has the darkest episode The Office has ever done, which is the dinner party between Michael and Jan.
The darkest and one of the funniest. Yeah. So good.
Much.
But after that, it was the writer's strike, which kills most shows.
Well, wait, you've got that reversed.
I know.
That was the first one when they came back.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that the season 4 has like a storyline going on. And then the writer's strike happened. When they came back, the last 4 episodes are kind of standalone episodes, right? So they stopped the story.
Yeah.
We get the dinner party scene, which is great. But then season 5 happens. And the thing is about season 5 is
it's 29 episodes.
There's that.
Or 26.
That's one issue I have with it. The other thing is that, like, Michael leaves, starts his own company, and then he sells the company and comes back. It's too chaotic. It's just there's too much plot going on in this season. To me,
it's the thing is it's so long. There's actually there's multiple story arcs that season. Because I actually rather like the Michael Scott paper company story.
I love it. I love that. But what I'm saying is that him selling it and coming back, maybe that should have been a season later or something like that. Just not all in 8 episodes. Right. It was too fast. They got it, they lost it. It was like.
We also did get Idris Elba as kind of sort of the replacement boss, which, by the way, I always look at that character as like if you took a real person, like a real manager, and stuck him on The Office, that was kind of him. Because, you know, everyone else, like by this point, the whole ensemble, everybody's goofy in some way. Michael's obviously goofy, but he is just like such a straight man. Like even in his talking heads, like he's never like quite making jokes. It's always like he's actually answering just like interview questions. I am aware of the effect I have on women. Like it's just this very matter of fact statement. And so but again, I don't want to make this all about The Office, but I mean, I've got a few other things on that list. Like, again, I mentioned Parks and Rec, but again, let's get away from my list for a moment. Like, and we talked a little bit, you mentioned Three's Company, Cameron. Jay, what would be on your list? If it's not on my list, or even if it is, I mean, we can talk about some other.
Real quick, when I found out that you were a big fan of sitcoms, Eric, I lit up because that's like, I don't want to say guilty pleasure, but generally a lot of people don't like sitcoms.
They look
nowadays.
down on them now, yeah.
So, but I grew up in the '90s mainly, so I watched a lot. You name it, I probably saw at least a few episodes of it. And,
you were there for TGIF, huh?
Oh man, I was
so
there.
Was I.
Butts and seats, man.
Cody, baby.
Yeah, I wanted to start with a few that maybe people weren't aware of. News Radio is one that I like quite a bit.
That's a great one. How did I miss that? That's a great one, Jay. Yeah.
It's I just love that's another great ensemble cast in that one.
Introduced Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
News Radio was I always have this memory. I was telling my wife about it the other day. When I was this was in the age range where I still had like a bedtime. And so I remember going to bed, and I remember my parents out in the living room, and I could hear them. We lived in a ranch style home, and so even when I shut my door, if they had the TV on, I could hear what was going on. But I remember my parents would watch Frasier, and I just remember my parents just like laughing hysterically. And I remember them watching News Radio, laughing hysterically. And Phil Hartman was he owned that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's the reason why that show didn't go longer than it could have.
Yeah, absolutely. His death definitely torpedoed that.
But another great show. Let's see. I know we're kind of pushed for time here, so I'll just go ahead and rattle some off.
Like I said, Jay, don't force it. Give me your list, man. Let's
the show episodes. I know you guys probably aren't familiar with, but it's
Matt
on
LeBlanc. Yeah, Matt LeBlanc. That's a good show.
That's I'm a big fan of that show. It's another one of these shows. It's kind of like Curb. That when's another season going to come out?
Right.
You wait like 3-4 years, and it's still up in the air. It's not like fully canceled yet, but big fan of that one. Let's see. I know you were probably have King of Queens on your list, Eric.
Yeah. So I basically the list I gave you was kind of my premier comedies, but I will call them guilty pleasures, but I'm not guilty about them. I think they're funny.
Right, exactly.
I like the King of Queens. I own the King of Queens complete series set that comes in a UPS or not UPS. What is he? Ubia? I forget the name of his company, but it comes in the delivery truck, and like you access the episodes. You like slide open the door in the back, and you pull out the seasons. That is a show to me that it's just a stupid sitcom. It's got the typical the fat guy with the beautiful wife, and he's got his irascible father-in-law who lives with them. But the performers elevated the material. Yeah. I know people pick on Kevin James, but to me, Kevin James and Jerry Stiller, who played the father, they made that show what it is. And Patton Oswalt too. Patton Oswalt's one of his buddies on that show. Those guys took just kind of generic, kind of silly sitcom material and just made it really funny. Like my wife and I tell a joke to each other of Jerry Stiller has this line in the show where they're talking about Doug and him are talking about, we're going to go get pizza. Where do you want to get pizza? He's like, I want to get it from Balducci's. And Jerry Stiller's like, no. Don't go to one of those big chains. I want to go to a little neighborhood joint. Domino's. And so every now and again when my wife and I are going to get pizza, she's like, where do you want to get it? And I was like, I don't know, a little neighborhood joint. Domino's maybe. It's such a stupid thing, I know. But like just lines like that, probably delivered by anybody else, would not have been as funny.
Yeah, I think Jerry Stiller may be what really made that show.
Yeah.
And of course, what is it, Leah
Remini.
Leah Remini, yeah, she's great. But the Lemon Ices, I love that one. And I love, when Jerry Stiller yells Lemon Ices, it was when he was a child.
Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot about that one. Yes,
and,
yes.
Also like when he's reading out the phone number to Kevin James.
Oh, he does. We
need an order. Bop, 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 bop.
Which, by the way, that's straight out of Kevin James' act. If you've ever seen his stand-up, because he has like a Comedy Central stand-up. I saw the episode of King of Queens of that, and again, I thought it was very funny. And then Netflix or wherever I found some Kevin James stand-up, and I watched it, and that's part of his bit. And it's the same. It's almost exactly the same thing. It's like, you ever talk to somebody who doesn't have the right phone cadence with you? Bop, bop,
don't sweat the small stuff. Is that the name of it? I know that might be it. One of his that I can remember the name of.
I think that might be it.
That's a good one.
I'm sorry, but I cut you off, Jay. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of King of Queens. I mean, hell, let's do an episode on that because there's like 9 seasons of that. I mean, that's another big show.
I think that'll be my cue. No, honestly, I've never actually seen the show, so
I mean, again, it's a sitcom, Cameron, but I think it's, if you watch a really funny episode of that, I think it's, again, a nice way to turn off your brain and just, have a good laugh every now and again.
Totally.
But what else would be on your list there, Jay, in terms of the sitcoms?
I'm a big fan of sketch comedy as well. Kids in the Hall, I love that stuff, and
nice.
Reno 911.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's not exactly a sketch show, but a big fan of that one.
Don't forget about the classic. You can't do that on television.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, actually, and this, first of all, I like you guys talking about these because these are notable just because there's potentially a lot of people watching this or who will watch it that have never heard of these things. Like you can't do that on television. I've only heard of that. I've actually not seen that.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
I'll have to dig into it. But like I've seen Kids in the Hall. I've even seen In Living Color.
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of stuff,
Right.
Oh, In Living Color. Oh man. I love that show. That's the kind of stuff that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was recently watching a documentary on Norman Lear, who basically brought, some color onto television.
Yeah.
He's the one responsible for, the Jeffersons and Good Times, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like the next generation, I guess, that, I grew up with Martin and, and Living Color and stuff like that,
Sure.
So I don't know,
1990 Fox years, because
exactly.
I mean, and then like you had Married with Children in those nights as well, because it was like it went 7:30. Parker Lewis Can't Lose, which was fantastic. Then In Living Color, and then there was I can't remember what it was, but then it was like Married with Children, or maybe, but I know Mark. Maybe that too.
Yeah, that was on for quite a while.
Yeah, Queen Latifah.
Yeah, and then Thursday NBC had the killer night of. I'm sorry to bring this up, but Cosby Show, it went Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, and then Hill Street Blues. It was like boom, 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 So those were the good old days, and I think that and then ABC in the '90s I think had it a little bit too when they did their Friday night thing. I mean, I know it's maybe a dip in quality, but still Full House, Step by Step, Perfect Strangers, and I can't remember what the last one was.
Family Matters.
Was it Family Matters? Was after?
Well, no, it went Full House, Family Matters,
right.
Step by Step, Perfect Strangers. I think that was the original lineup. Or actually, it might not have been because I think there was an iteration of TGIF before that.
Right.
But I don't remember that I think is a little bit old for me.
I think Perfect Strangers was on before that.
See, a lot of that stuff went into syndication really quickly for me, so it's hard for me to remember the order because it would be on in the afternoon.
I have very vivid memories of it, Jay, because let me tell you what my Friday was like. For some family reasons, we were in the house a lot. And so my mom kind of was taking care of the house, taking care of the home. On Friday nights, my mom would go play bingo. It was just a way to get out of the house, leave. My dad would stay home with me. In fact, we'd order Domino's pizza. We'd go down to the local neighborhood joint.
Domino's.
We go to Domino's and we'd watch TGI Friday. And so I just remember like every Friday, and I always remember like, cause especially when I was a younger kid, like I wouldn't always make it to that fourth show. Like Perfect Strangers, even though I like it now, I remember I didn't like it as much then because I rarely made it that far. Like I'd fall asleep by 9:30. But definitely it was Full House, Family Matters, and then Step by Step. And that was like that's the only reason I remember that order so specifically. Once we get like where Sabrina the Teenage Witch shows up and there's some other shows, like I lose track then. I don't remember.
But see, I remember Step by Step because Stacey Keenan was in that show and she was in The Two Dads.
Yes, she was.
Right?
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So where
did she go, by the way? Stacey Keenan was gorgeous and funny. I don't know why she like dropped off the map.
Okay, we need to make a movie with that Stacey Keenan and Carrie Green in it. Which you may know from Goonies and Lucas and things like that. I mean, these are just amazingly hot actresses in the 80s that like just disappeared. But no, I don't know. I mean, it's just so funny to hear like why people found certain shows. It's like, yeah, Perfect Strangers. never made it to the fourth show, but at your age, you wouldn't even relate to Perfect Strangers.
Oh yeah.
You know.
First of all, Perfect Strangers has a fantastic theme song, though. I love that theme song. That was back when your show could have a big, bombastic, emotional theme.
Yeah.
Family Matters is a spinoff of Perfect Strangers.
It is. That's correct.
Harriet worked in the mailroom, I believe.
She either worked. It was either mailroom or she was the elevator worker or something. But wow, yeah, good reference.
See, because I
save that for a spin-off show, Jay. Come on, man.
Honestly, I was always under the impression, and I know it was a different name, but I was always under the impression that it was a spin-off of his character in Die Hard because he was the cop.
He was the cop there. He was a cop in everything, though. He was a cop in Ghostbusters too.
Turner and Hooch.
Yeah.
And Turner and Hooch. Right.
But I as a kid, I always told myself this is Al when he got home. Like after saving Nakatomi Plaza, they had to deal with hi Laura. What's his name? What's not Screech? No. What the hell was his name? Urkel. Yeah.
This actually ties in with a modern comedy, which has since ended. What is it? Key and Peele.
Yeah.
Key and Peele did sketch comedy on Comedy Central. They did one of the things they did was this I think it was. I think it was Jordan Key. I think he played the dad from Family Matters, but he was playing the actor. So he's playing Reginald Bell Johnson. Right. And basically it was this thing. Stop me if you've seen it, but basically it's playing him reacting to the Urkel character and the rise in his prominence. because if you watch the first season of Family Matters, by the way, Urkel is a guest star. I don't think. First of all, I don't think he appears in every episode. Mm-hmm. And when he does appear, he's not in the main credits. He's he's the neighborhood kid. And he shows up every now and again. But he was so popular that they, eventually Urkel took over the show. Urkel was the star.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was Urkel and Carl, basically.
Right. And they do this bit where it's Reginald Vell Johnson is basically getting threatened by Urkel, who's now running the show. And I'm not doing it justice. I look it up because I saw it on YouTube, or maybe I looked it up on Comedy Central, but a really good sketch. And also just another good reference for, if there's a show you want to check out for, comedy shows that are worth your time, Key and Peele.
Watch Key and Peele. That's a great show.
And now Peele is the most successful horror director of the last 5 years.
Yes. Yes, actually, I still need to see Get Out. As a matter of fact,
you guys say he's the most successful African American director, or something like that. Had the biggest opening weekend.
Well, I mean, they spent $5 million on that movie. It's almost made $500 million.
Jeez,
that's great, man.
I hope he's got a hell of a contract, man.
They offered him Akira, and he turned it down. He said, "No, I'd rather just make these small little movies." Good for him.
They offered him Akira.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I don't blame him, man. That dude's can take his pick of what he wants. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, he looked at Ghost in the Shell and went, "No, thanks, I'm not doing that shit."
Yeah.
So. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. I have to go eat dinner before.
All right, thanks, Cameron. Thanks for the contribution.
Oh, of course.
Always nice to have you.
It's always wonderful talking with you guys. So, all right, have a good night.
Absolutely.
All right,
thanks.
Bye.
But just kind of on your riff there, Jay, of the other kind of quote unquote guilty pleasure sitcoms, I include Everybody Loves Raymond in that list. And I think it's off of Netflix now. For a long time, Everybody Loves Raymond was on Netflix, and my wife and I kind of went through and rewatched it. Mm-hmm. I think that show rubs some people the wrong way, and it might have to do with your family situation. And by the way, I don't say that as a judgment, but I just know when I watch Everybody Loves Raymond, there are just certain things I identify with. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hilarious. And especially, I think it's a show that gets better as it goes on. And there's just some really, really choice episodes. Also, in terms of spin-offs and crossovers, it crossed over with King of Queens a couple of times, which I thought was kind of cool. So the character of Doug Heffernan appeared on Everybody Loves Raymond, and Raymond appeared on King of Queens a couple of times too.
Yeah, those guys I think were friends in real life. I've seen a few.
Yep.
I guess I don't know what they were on, but they were together, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Raymond. And,
well, Kevin James was originally on Everybody Loves Raymond. It was in a guest starring capacity, but he wasn't Doug Heffernan. He was a character named Kevin, and he was one of Ray's fellow writers at his newspaper. Mm-hmm. And then there just comes a point where that guy just disappears. and then again, you never see him again. But every now and again, Doug hangs out with this guy, Doug Heffernan.
I just think it's this mentality to hate things that are popular, because both of those shows were massive hits, and everybody's talking about it. You know how people are. I don't like that because it's popular type of attitude. But
it's
it's formulaic.
Well, see that I think would be. I hesitate to say people are rejecting something that's popular. I'm sure there are people who do it. I mean, again, you and I both know Cole, for example. Sorry, Cole. But no, I think it's more the formulaic stuff. I think it's even either the live audience or the laugh track. Like that's why Big Bang Theory gets like a lot of hate. Is that if you take away the laugh track, like how funny is it? I'll raise my hand and just say I watch The Big Bang Theory. I think it's funny. I don't think it's bold or inventive like a show like Arrested Development or Community or Curb Your Enthusiasm, but it makes me laugh. Like I'm sort of the wrong person to kind of have assess the value of a comedy, whether it's a TV show or a movie. I feel like my metric is, does this make me laugh?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, then I like it and I'll enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, it's so formulaic. It's like, are the things they're saying funny? Am I laughing? Like, that's all I want out of these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the other day I was thinking about this when we were preparing for the show. I was kind of down. I didn't feel good. I was kind of depressed a little bit. And I put on an episode of The Office. It made me feel better. That's kind of the way, I need these things in my life because they make me happy and they make me laugh. So
exactly right. Exactly right.
If you're not the kind of person that likes that type of show, I totally understand. But, I am.
Yeah. Well, that's like sometimes it's just it's a question of mood. Like in the reason I started watching Cheers was I knew it was funny because I'd seen it before and I figured, now as a grown man, I'd probably get something else out of it. And I also hadn't seen a ton of it. So like I could kind of look at it with new eyes. And in fact, there's a ton, like the majority of the episodes I'm seeing, I've never seen before. But it was also that, like, again, I love The Office. I love Parks and Rec. I love Arrested Development. I've seen them so many times. And I'm sure I'm going to see them many times more. But I just did not want to go back to I didn't want to jump back into The Office. Because also, too, I would note, with The Office, as much as it's funny, there's an emotional component. Like, my wife and I really, that last episode, like that, we get a little teary-eyed. Like Pam's final like speech, I think, in the final episode. And even Andy has a good line in that final episode. I forget, it's something like, I wish someone would tell you the good times like when you're in them. Or something like that, because it's like he says when he was at the office, he was thinking about his good times back at Cornell with his band. But now that he's gone from the office, he's thinking about his good times with his friends at the office. Like, it was just this very poignant remark, and Pam has a similar thing. But that's what I mean. Like, there's kind of an emotional investment there, and I was sort of looking. Like, I didn't want to go through that again. And I say that, and the Sam and Diane thing is actually very emotional. It kind of takes you on a roller coaster of its own. But because it's new, like, I'm kind of willing to take it on. But to your point exactly, it's like I was looking for something fun. I didn't. Really the main show I'm watching right now, because it's Better Call Saul just ended this past week. I finally caught up on that last night. So it would be Twin Peaks and Fargo. Both, like, Twin Peaks, I gotta like think about, and I gotta watch it several times. And by the way, I'm making that sound like a chore, but all I mean is I really enjoy it, but it's a little taxing,
It is, yeah.
And Fargo similarly is, again, Fargo and Twin Peaks I find to be very comparable shows, in the sense that, like, it's really, there's a lot there. It's exciting and it's great, but it can be really dark and disturbing and lots of stuff going on. Like you're saying, I need something light in my life. It can't just be Fargo and Twin Peaks. And then Game of Thrones is gonna come out and we're gonna stab pregnant women in the belly, and dragons are gonna eat people. It's like I really there's gotta be a balance.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like Goldbergs. I'm watching Goldbergs right now. I think that may have the season may be over for that. Fresh Off the Boat. That's a show you'd probably really enjoy.
Is that one of the shows that's like backed up to Goldberg's? It's on ABC.
It's on ABC.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the same night, but they really have a good block going over there on ABC. We recently lost ABC with our satellite package, and I didn't realize how many shows I watched. I was like, oh wow.
Wait a second.
We got it back. It was just one of those, they were trying to hold out for more money or something.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like ABC. Like I've heard that with like AMC. I've never heard that with a major network before.
It was crazy. We lost. Like we all like to watch America's Funniest Home Videos. Is a family show to watch together.
Carlton hosts that now, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He does.
Which is funny.
I'm
sorry. Was it? I can't think of his name all of a sudden. I want to say his last name, but Alfonso Ribeiro, is that his name?
That's it.
Yeah, sorry. So I think most people would get who I'm referring to with Carlton, but in case
sure.
I wanted to help.
I'm sure that's what people call him all the time. Fresh Prince, that's another great show.
Yeah, Fresh Prince is funny. I have found Fresh Prince, for whatever reason, it doesn't hold up as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing that I actually like about Cheers is Cheers really could be like there's a timeless quality to it so far. I mean, I don't know if maybe something's going to come out over the next few seasons that really makes me think like, oh wow, that's dated. But similar to like Twin Peaks,
mm-hmm.
I don't feel like Cheers absolutely is happening in the 80s. Sometimes the way people are dressed is a little goofy,
right.
but I think it has a timeless quality. Fresh Prince for whatever reason, maybe because I was more aware of it, just feels very 90s and a little corny to me now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is. I can see how it would be dated. I haven't seen it in a few years now. It's almost like geared to a younger audience also.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely funny in its time. I'm not knocking it. And again, I encourage if you're younger, if you've never seen it, give it a try. It's worth watching the pilot, watching some episodes. But for me, it's never one that I've gone back to just yet.
Have you ever seen the show Extras, the Ricky Gervais?
I haven't seen Extras.
That's a really good show.
People keep telling me I need to see Extras. I haven't seen that yet.
That was one I did the same thing, but I finally broke down, and I think I got the disc on from Netflix like years ago.
Yeah.
But now thankfully, thanks to HBO Go, it's all available for you there.
Oh yeah. I think Arrested Development was a show that people kept telling me to watch, and I didn't watch it. And then finally I watched it, and I like devoured it immediately. I was like, hold on, that's it?
Yeah. That show had a really odd run. I think I mentioned this to you before, but there's a documentary on the basically the goings on behind the scenes of Arrested Development. Yeah. It's really, really interesting. They were like on pins and needles, like after every episode that they were going to get canceled, and eventually it happened there at the third season.
It's I feel like there are shows in some ways, and it's funny I say this because I know Community ultimately did get canceled and moved off the network and was on like Yahoo's screen and all this stupid stuff. But I feel in some ways like, sort of not true anymore, but Lost is kind of like an evolution of Twin Peaks. I know some people may resist that because like, oh my God, Twin Peaks is God. But I feel, again, Twin Peaks kind of made 2 seasons and then burned out. It changed TV, but it didn't, I think Lost was sort of Twin Peaks was the prototype. Lost was kind of the finished product of that kind of show. If you want to make a genre show, Lost was kind of the ultimate version of what that could be. And again, it ran for 6 seasons and was very successful. Again, we can all debate the end and all these various other things, but Lost was pulling in big numbers for all of its seasons. Even in the later years when the numbers were dipping, it was still like 10 million viewers, whatever. Pulling in for these episodes. But sorry, where I'm going with that point is I think Arrested Development was similarly ahead of its time. Now, it didn't take 20 years to get Community, but Community to me feels very much in the same vein as Arrested Development. And Community stayed around for much longer. Like they got 6 seasons ultimately, and they kind of proved out their concept, getting better with every season, I think.
That's the second reference he made, J.J. Abrams, to Twin Peaks tonight.
Is it? What was my other one?
Fringe.
Oh, Fringe. That's Lost. True. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Fringe, and Fringe is interesting because Fringe came from Well, sort of. I guess it didn't because J.J. Abrams was behind that. But Fringe came out at a time when, after Lost became so popular, and maybe I'm sure you remember this, every network was trying to find their Lost.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too far afield. I know we're talking comedy, so I'm not. But just it's important to note this because when we do eventually do our Lost show or we do our Lost viewings or whatever we do there, it's got to be important. It's got to be big. I love Lost, but every network was like trying to do their mystery show. Remember, there was like a show on, it's like CBS had a show, NBC had a number of shows. NBC ultimately had Heroes, which I always thought like part of why I hate it. That's why I hate Heroes, because they were trying to make it seem like Heroes was a show that was going to deliver on its promises, and I was like, "Fuck you!" Like, what do you mean deliver on it? Like, what the hell are you talking about? But ABC even had other shows. That they like again, they had Lost already, but they were trying to make other shows with that kind of there's a mystery and we have a plan, we know how it's going to end, and pretty much all of them failed. But Fringe, I think, was Fox doing that kind of, except they went back to J.J. Abrams and did it. And really, Fringe was not a Lost competitor. If anything, Fringe was like an evolution of X-Files. But ultimately, Fringe was its own thing. I mean, Fringe was hard sci-fi. Fringe was a fantastic show. I mean, hell, there's a show we should, when we ever talk about sci-fi shows or whatever, that's a good one. But sorry, back to comedies. I didn't mean to go too far afield there.
No, what are some others you have on your list?
Well, so I named, I thought, the big ones, and again, someone called me out in the chat for not including Seinfeld. Let me just say, I think Seinfeld, it goes without saying. Maybe it doesn't because I omitted it, but Seinfeld certainly would be on my list of a show that, and that's just the thing. Seinfeld's been off the air now for almost 20 years. There are people out there who haven't seen Seinfeld. I would highly encourage you, if you haven't seen Seinfeld, holy cow, go watch that. There's another show that, for the most part, has a very timeless quality. There are some episodes, and it's a joke out there now. You see memes about this, that most of Seinfeld wouldn't happen if you had a cell phone. I think it's a funny joke, but I think that's oversimplifying things. But yeah, Seinfeld absolutely would be on my list. But I've also got on here, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've got Louie. And again, I fell off with Louie for a couple of reasons. Like, there was big gaps between seasons.
Yeah.
There was some political stuff with Louis C.K. He kind of pissed me off, but I'll probably revisit the show at some point. We don't need to get into that.
Stay out of politics, guys.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll stay out of it. But it's
no. I'm not talking about you. I'm meaning celebrities in general.
Well, it's the kind of thing where sometimes they say something so stupid, or again, I don't care what your politics are. Like the thing he said, like making fun of like Sarah Palin's like handicapped child, like.
Oh wow.
That's the kind of thing where it's like, listen, I have a good attitude about things. If something, it's my rule I was saying earlier about comedies. If something's funny, it's funny. I'm not such a hard ass or a tightwad about politics that like I'll like, oh my god, that's terrible. But like, making fun of handicapped people is never funny. The only people who've been able to successfully do it is South Park. And the reason is the way that they do it. They treat any character on South Park who's handicapped is a fully realized character. Even Timmy, who's a character who only says his own name, he's like a fully realized character. Like, and again, it's little kids do it. Again, they managed to. But Louis C.K. was making some dumb comments, and he made fun of Sarah Palin's son. And I just thought, like, I can't deal with you, dude. Like, I don't really watch your crap. That said, I enjoyed his show before then. I'm sure I'll probably pick it up again at some point, but that's why I fell off of Louis.
I don't think I'd heard that.
I'm sure if you do a quick Google search, you'll find that, and that's what.
That's unfortunate.
Like he actually bowed out of like an award show or something after that because the blowback on him was so bad about it. And I think he ultimately did apologize, which is why I may make it back to Louis. And that's because, again, I actually think he's really funny. He has a very funny stand-up delivery.
His last few stand-up specials have not been nearly as good, in my opinion.
I think he's one of those guys. I think he's clearly a very smart man. And it is an element of his comedy that he kind of does take you down into the rabbit hole with him. But I think there is a certain point where you start kind of getting up inside your own asshole with some of this stuff that I think that could be what's happening with him. I haven't seen the show. I haven't seen the show. That may not be what's happening, but there, whenever I hear him, interviewed in places, that's kind of what comes to me.
Well, he's doing a lot of stuff through his website.
Right.
So
right.
he's basically releasing it himself.
Right.
And I think he had a Netflix special or HBO special, whatever the last special he had was on some format, which I'm sure he got paid a ridiculous amount of money for. He wouldn't have done it.
One of the things he does that I actually really respect, he's one of the few people out there who kind of spouts, the usual nonsense, but he actually backs it up with his actions. I knew this is true for his show Louie. I don't know if he's doing this with his Netflix specials or if he should stop, but I've seen him interviewed, and he says this. I've never gone and researched it, but apparently, he, like everybody who's successful, gets an exorbitant amount of money. He apparently, I don't know if he's giving that away to charity or he's paying his people really well or what he's doing, but basically, when he makes all this money for Louie, again, it's very, like you say, it's very minimalistic. He produces that a lot just himself. It's just him. As I understand it, he's giving that money back to charity or turning it into something. And good reference in the live chat to Michael and Walt, by the way. But for that, I actually do respect him, because there's a lot of people who they tout this, about, corporate profits, and then they're living in their 10,000 square foot mansion, blowing AC all the time. Whereas I think Louis C.K. actually does back up what he says with what he does. And so I do respect that. But that all aside, what else would be on my list would be, I'm surprised what you didn't really react to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Have you not watched that show?
I love that show.
Yeah. I think
it's I don't think the quality is quite where it was at one point. But Caitlin Olsen's off kind of doing her own show, I forget the Mick, I think the name of it is.
Yeah, which I don't know. That might have gotten canceled. I don't know if that got picked up. I haven't
seen it, but it's understandable. They're all relatively successful people now, and the first few seasons of that show were just the best. And there were some great seasons or great episodes this past season.
Oh yeah,
but
that's a show where I think you're right. Where I think they've gotten to a point where they've been on so long, and it's hard to pick on a comedy for this, right? Again, my basic metric is it funny? But I still respect when a show tries to do something else. And I think the reason why maybe you think some of their more recent seasons haven't been as funny as the first few is that in the first few, I think I wouldn't say they were formulaic, but it kind of was all fresh and new. I think they've tried to do some experimental stuff in the past few, try new things, do different, and it doesn't always work. And when it does, it's really, really funny. But then when it doesn't, sometimes the episodes aren't as great as they could be. But I respect the effort, and I respect that FX gives them the freedom that, hey, we like your program. We think, you do good for us. Go make the show you want to make. But yeah, I think that's another show that, again, if only you give it the first 3 or 4 seasons, that's a show that, if you have some time, dig into it. I think that's on Netflix too, or maybe it's not, but even if it's not, I think you can.
I believe it is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's. I don't think
FX has a free app though too that you can use and watch probably episodes of it as well.
Is it FX or FXX? One of those two.
Oh, that's true. It actually is on FXX now. Now that there's a second.
What a stupid name.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they did that. So also on my list, I've got Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt from Netflix, which I don't know how much you've watched that, but that's a show that. It's funny. I've already said my metric is, does it make me laugh? Kimmy Schmidt doesn't always make me laugh, but it's a show that I just enjoy watching. To your point about sometimes I like to watch something that just is light, makes me feel good. Kimmy Schmidt is kind of like that.
Yeah.
I think that oh gosh, her name is escaping me. Isn't her real name Erin? What's her real name?
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The star of Kimmy Schmidt. I'm doing terrible tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I don't remember her name. But again, from The Office, she was the second receptionist. I thought, in terms of the new cast added to The Office, she was hilarious. She was so fantastic, and her character was really good. Again, in season 8, her character kind of went to some troublesome places, but generally speaking, she's just a very funny. Ellie Kemper. That's it. Thank you, Jay. Ellie Kemper is very funny, and her portrayal of Kimmy Schmidt on the show is just fantastic. She plays that character to the hilt. And one of the things that's about that show that I very much like and it's a tone that I think only like a Tina Fey production could strike.
Mm-hmm.
The central premise of Kimmy Schmidt is really dark. You know, a bunch of women were kidnapped and held in a bunker for like 15 years or whatever it was. And what the guy was essentially raping them. I mean, he kidnapped them. He made them his wife. I mean, the show never really comes out and says that, but it did. I mean, it happened because I actually saw an article about this during the most recent season. Well, again, I say during on Netflix. You know, the seasons are all out at once. But somebody commented after the most recent season of episodes came out on Netflix that Kimmy Schmidt finally said the R word, and it was it was funny. They even sort of, it was in the form of a joke, but it was Kimmy Schmidt kind of finally acknowledging what the guy played hilariously by John Hamm. Again, it's funny. Like this is kind of what I'm talking about. We're talking about this sort of dark situation, this dark character, this victim of these dark circumstances, joking and being in this very funny circumstance. The show is very light and funny, but when you think about it and some of the events that happened, you know, the character that John Hamm played who did this to them, you know, he's very funny, but he essentially was raping these women. And that's, again, it's a line that they somehow straddle and still maintain a light, funny tone. It seems odd to say that you could joke about rape, and they don't exactly, but it's again a good show, worth your time if you get some opportunities to watch it.
Yeah,
Kimmy Schmidt definitely should be on your list, and Ellie Kemper is just awesome. I've got, and then we start getting into more quote unquote conventional stuff. I've got Big Bang Theory on my list. I enjoy that show. I think at this point in the series too, the later seasons are like, it's getting better. You know, the ensemble's really strong. You know, and even, and the fact too, like the one thing that you see on sitcoms too is the characters don't change. On Big Bang Theory, the characters kind of have changed. You know, and you see this most evident in the Sheldon character, who is still he's still the character he always was, but you know, he's got a girlfriend. He just slept with her, like I think in this last season. You know, something that, you know, if you'd said that about the character in like season 2, I don't think I would have believed he'd sleep with anybody ever. You know, again, does it have a laugh track, live audience, whatever? Yeah, but it makes me laugh. It's funny.
Is it live audience or is it laugh track?
Well, that's kind of what I don't know, because I think they do have a live audience, but I've seen, like, you know, people on YouTube and clips of people like removing the laughing, and so I'm not exactly sure. I thought they have a live audience, but maybe it is just a laugh track. I'm not
Because
sure.
I know, like, you know, Cheers. You're watching Cheers. Like, doesn't that say like a few times filmed in front of a?
Every episode starts with a different character saying Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio audience. In fact, each character says it kind of differently. Like, I think it's like Carla goes like, "Hey, Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio audience."
That sounds right.
No,
that's. But I mean, I think that you know, adds a little to it. You know, laugh track, not necessarily, but you know, I think the real reactions, you know, Married with Children, when, you know, Kelly comes out wearing a short skirt, you know, you get all the woos in the audience.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's definitely part of it.
But I know Ork had mentioned that he didn't like that in a show, and you know, he's a little younger than I am, or a few years younger than me, and you know, I can kind of understand that because, you know, a lot of shows put that canned laughter in there, you know, that he probably grew up with. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the live audience really is not a bad thing.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mention that, because I think Married with Children sometimes had the same problem that Seinfeld had. Seinfeld, in some of its later, like once it got really, really popular, like for example, when Kramer would enter, you know, the audience would always like freak out. It got to be so bad that they had to start telling the audience, like, okay, guys, like, you know, we're having a good time. This is awesome. You know, you love Kramer, but you know, we actually got to film the scene. Like, you can't go on for like 5 minutes hooting and hollering for Kramer. And I'm pretty sure, like, I think the E! True Hollywood Story for like Married with Children talked about that a little bit too, that, you know, the audience would sometimes get just really rowdy, and they had to be like, okay, you know, we know you love Jefferson, we know you love Kelly, but we gotta actually film this. You know, you gotta give us a moment to get some dialogue in. Because it's true. Sometimes it's like Al would walk in the house and you could tell he's like trying to say something, but he's kind of like he's gotta stand there and he's gotta pose a little bit and he's gotta wait for all the hooting to die down.
That's a little bit more pressure too, when you've got to do it live instead of okay, cut, we'll do another take on that.
Right.
So
I've got like Modern Family I've got on my list. I think Modern Family is pretty funny. I mean, that's I don't like watch Modern Family live. In fact, I don't watch like Big Bang Theory live, but USA runs marathons of Modern Family, and sometimes at night after we put the kid to bed, Jess and I just want to turn off our brains and sorry, my wife, named her whatever. We'll just we'll just kind of kick back and we'll watch like 4 episodes of Modern Family or whatever. It's funny. And again, it's funny. We talk about Married with Children, Ed O'Neill's on that show. I think he's hilarious on that show. And Jesus, we're talking about comedy, but Sofia Vergara, my Lord, I'll watch her do anything. That woman is gorgeous. But again, just, the show's funny. I think I mentioned I got Family Guy on there. I added Vice Principals, even though I didn't finish it. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. No, we mentioned it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I need to finish it. I definitely need to dive back in with it. But I liked it. I got like 4 episodes in, and it was very funny, and I just need to pick it up again. But yeah, I think that's all I had on my list. But I'll be honest, I'm sure I'm missing some. Like again, Cameron, I think was it you who brought up News Radio?
Yeah.
Yeah, News Radio would easily go on this list too. I haven't actually sat down and watched it in many years, but News Radio is hilarious.
I'll tell you another show that you probably really enjoy if you haven't seen it is Happy Endings.
Was that the show with Elijah Cuthbert? Mm-hmm. It was on ABC.
Yeah, Adam Pally, Damon Wayans Jr.
Yes.
Really good show. Yeah, I think it went 3 seasons.
It actually went. I thought it got canceled after like 1 season. Oh, okay.
On ABC. It's great show. I don't know. It's one of those shows that probably should have done better than it did, but for whatever reason, it just didn't. It didn't get the the ratings. So
I'm finding that a show like that might have been successful on like FX or if one of the cable channel like TBS is getting into the comedy game. Actually, you know what show I'd put on here too? Angie Tribeca. Have you seen Angie Tribeca?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Angie, Angie, oh really? Oh, holy cow, man. Check out Angie Tribeca. So it's produced by Steve Carell and his wife, Nancy Wallace. So we know Steve Carell and his wife, we know her as the realtor from The Office as well.
I can't think of her name.
She was also a former, I'm sorry?
Was it Karen?
Was it Karen?
I could be wrong.
What was her name? I think it might have been Karen. That kid, I'm gonna slap myself. I know all those characters backwards and forwards. Why can't I think of that? But anyway, they like produced the show, but it's Rashida Jones of Parks and Rec fame, and again many other things. I mean, she's been in a ton of stuff. And just to tie it back to Twin Peaks, her mom is Peggy Lipton.
Wow.
She's getting those gorgeous looks from Peggy Lipton and her dad Quincy Jones.
Wow.
Yeah, but Rashida Jones, it is a spoof TV show, like in the vein of like Airplane or Naked Gun. And the reason I like it is I have not seen a good. Well, first I like it because it's good and it's funny, but but I'm giving it the credit that it deserves here is because since like Airplane and the Naked Gun movies, I guess like the Wayans brothers think they're the people who make spoof movies now, and I'm sorry, they're terrible. None of those movies are funny to me. But this show is like, if you like Airplane, if you like Naked Gun, if you like those old style spoof shows, Angie Tribeca gets it right. I mean, it is just very funny stuff. I mean, like every scene is peppered with like 100 jokes, and some land, some don't, some are just goofy, but it's really got that vibe, and it's very, very funny, very funny. And I dig it. Whenever it's on, I watch it, but it's, I don't think it's on any of the streaming services. Maybe it's on TBS's like app or whatever, but
okay.
Yeah, definitely, Jay, if you haven't checked out an episode or 2 of that.
I will do it. I was wondering what Rashida Jones was up to these days. 'Cause I haven't seen her in anything for a
Well,
while.
Rashida
after
Jones has
Parks and Rec.
actually made a move behind the camera more than anything. I mean, obviously she's in Angie Tribeca, and I think that's kind of her main thing right now. But she co-wrote Toy Story 4, which will be coming out soon.
Oh wow.
I'm not sure. Again, I say soon, but it may not be. I'm not sure. I know she co-wrote it. That was one of. In fact, my understanding is she left Parks and Rec for a couple of reasons. One, I think she was trying to go and write Toy Story 4, and she needed a little bit of freedom to do that. And they knew that for they were probably only going to get one more season, and I think they kind of expected that it would be a shortened season and the budgets were going to get cut. And naturally, she and Rob Lowe were commanding big salaries, so they wrote them out. So that there were a couple things going on there. But in addition to that, she did a like a Netflix documentary. And I think she covered I thought she covered more than one topic, but one of the things she did kind of like a documentary on porn. And
I
but like
saw
from the
that.
yeah,
I saw that. It was really good.
right. It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. I've seen that too. And so she's kind of like. First off, I think it's a fantastic way for her to take her career because she still acts, she still does stuff. I think she's hilarious. I think she's a really good actress. But she's really trying to become more than just an actress. I mean, she's writing, she's directing, producing, really good stuff. Like I think if you're like an actress or a young female talent in Hollywood, she is someone I think to emulate. I think she's done a really fantastic job.
Yeah, that's definitely the move to make. Go behind the camera. That's where the money is anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like, she had forged a relationship with Steve Carell from her time on The Office. And I think, it's, I think it's a small community of people out there. And I think if you meet people and you work with people you like, and Steve Carell has kind of, he still acts and does things, but if you think about it, he's kind of moved away from comedy as a performer. And he's kind of trying to produce things and direct things and do more writing and that kind of thing. But I think he's still funny, so it's like he still does like Despicable Me, and he appears in random things. But I think he's producing Angie Tribeca because he has that comic sensibility. Like it very much like it feels to me like somebody of his caliber is like pulling the strings on this show. Somebody who really gets that old style like Airplane type humor. Because it feels lovingly made to me. Like I watch it and it feels like the people who loved Airplane are making the show. It's not like hokey stuff. Well, I mean sometimes it's hokey, but that's kind of part of its charm. But well, Jay, I think God, I feel like we could probably schedule a second show about this. Quite frankly, I mean, there's just so much to cover. But why don't we? Why don't you? What are your final thoughts on this stuff? What are there any shows you haven't mentioned you think people worth giving a look?
Yeah, like you said, it's so much stuff out there. I've got so many more shows to talk about, and we could go on probably just about two or three other shows. But yeah, just. Check out some of the stuff we've mentioned because I don't really want to rattle on for too much longer here. I know I mentioned Seinfeld. That's my number one favorite comedy.
Yeah,
perfect.
And Seinfeld, by the way, folks, because I remember Orc was asking about this. I think there's just so many options where you can access this content, and just options that are producing content. You don't know where to go. Right. Seinfeld has Hulu has exclusive rights to Seinfeld. So if you want to watch all of Seinfeld, your option is, you can try and catch them all on the numerous reruns on like TBS. Or Hulu has all the episodes uncut. And so you can do that. I actually own Seinfeld the complete series, and it comes with a coffee table book.
That's awesome, man. I would love to have that.
But you can get that there. Community is also exclusively available on Hulu, and you can catch all 6 seasons, including the final season that was originally available only on Yahoo Screen, which is now defunct. But I also think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue, Jay, but I just want to make sure people know where they can get Seinfeld.
No, thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. I did want to mention, you said Angie Tribeca is on TBS. They're really doing some great stuff over there. Lennon Parham, I'm trying to remember the show she's on. Anyway, they've got some good content over there on that channel. Good comedy shows.
Yeah. TBS is trying like they're trying some things, because TBS has also had a couple of quote unquote sitcoms, and I don't know how successful they've been, but I think TBS are the ones who make American Dad now. The other show that Seth MacFarlane's got,
Right.
I think Fox canceled it, and TBS picked it right up, and that they're making new episodes for TBS of American Dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing that popped, I just remembered it, and I've wanted to bring it up a number of times, but bringing up Yahoo Screen reminded me that there was another show produced for Yahoo Screen by Paul Feig, or Feig, or however you say his name, the director of the new Ghostbusters, which based on that volume, forget he made that movie for a second, because Paul Feig is actually a really funny guy, a really funny director. Directed some of the funniest episodes of The Office, as a matter of fact. He worked with I can't remember if it was Judd Apatow, but Paul Feig produced a show for Yahoo Screen called Other Space. I think it's just 10 episodes, and it's basically like kind of like a sci-fi spoof type show, a comedy of like a ship that gets like lost in space, and the crew, is just kind of this cast of characters, and it's actually really, really funny. But unfortunately, because it was in Yahoo Screen and nobody knew where it was or how to find it, you probably never saw it. That is available now. I think Paul Feig like either released it on like Twitch for free, or maybe it's on Hulu.
Wow.
But dig into it, because Paul Feig recently he put it out there. I think it's just free. He wants people to see it. It's he wants to make more of it. And the reason I love it, and actually one show I didn't even bring up, Mystery Science Theater 3000, which again kind of toes the line between TV and movie. But Joel Hodgson, who created Mystery Science Theater, he actually plays a character on the show, as does Trace Bulow. And I could be butchering his name, but he was the original villain on Mystery Science Theater, Dr. Forrester. He also was the first voice of Crow T. Robot, who voices a robot on this show. And so Other Space by Paul Feig, check it out. Very, very good, very funny. In fact, Jay, I even recommend if you get a chance to pop one of those in. I think it's very funny. I would note that the actress who plays the computer on the show, gosh, I gotta look up her name. She has kind of like a boy's name. It's like Piper. She's gorgeous. I think that's what attracted me to the show. Is I was like, hold on, who's that? And then I just was surprised by it just being a really funny, really great show. So there's something else to check out there if you get some time.
Yeah, that's another show I haven't even heard of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Other
cool.
Space. Definitely check that out. Even if you just give the pilot a try, I think it's got some good stuff in there that'll hook you for at least another couple episodes.
Sure.
But yeah, I think, honestly, we've covered so many things. I think there are so many options out there, and frankly, I'm sure there are shows we didn't even discuss. Maybe shows that were only on for a season or two that were actually really good and really funny, and just it kind of slipped out of the public consciousness. But yeah, I think if you're looking for some funny things to watch, if you hit on any one or two of the things that we've mentioned here, I think you'll have some laughs in Jay mentioned what you don't see is that Jay and I talk to each other on chat sometimes. Sometimes I'm reacting to things you didn't see. Milena Vaintrub, who is an actress that appeared in Ghostbusters, by the way. She's also appeared in Silicon Valley, but you would probably know her as the AT&T girl, the gorgeous AT&T girl in the tight blue shirt. She appears on Other Space, and she's hilarious. She's really, really funny.
Yeah.
But she's actually not who I'm referring to. The actress who is the computer. God, I can't remember her name. I'll find it, Jay. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, if you hit on anything that we've mentioned here today, even if you go back in time and pick up like Three's Company, like Cameron mentioned, or Cheers or Frasier, yeah, they're sitcoms, but I think what you're gonna find is those shows are funnier than like their format would suggest. And I would note that Cheers really has actually surprised me with how bold it is. Like I say, taking its main character and kind of turning him into a real asshole, like in the close of the second season. Again, he recovers, and Sam Malone is not like an asshole for the whole show, but he, there are times where Sam is kind of a dick. And you kind of root for the person that I think at the time everybody thought Diane was the fuddy-duddy. But I think you look at this now, 20, 30 years on, you kind of society has changed a bit, and Sam kind of comes off as a little bit of a prick. And that's just life. But again, still very funny and worth your time. So, Jay, any last thoughts?
No, just check out some of the stuff we mentioned, and I'm sure we'll be back to do more comedy here in the future at some point. Maybe we can narrow it down to a specific genre of comedy, subgenre.
Sure. Like I think, even if we just did, shows like Community and Arrested Development and Curb Your Enthusiasm, kind of the like the genre bending comedy shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, that those could be. I mean, we barely talked about Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, we could devote a whole show to it.
Yeah, we could.
We could devote a whole show to Seinfeld. I mean, it's there's a lot of ground here to cover. But our point is, and this is sort of the challenge of our show too, is that we're trying to hone people in on what to focus on with your limited time. The fact is there's kind of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to comedy. But like I say, if you leave this show and you think you heard something that might be good and you want to give it a try, I hope you do, because heck, I'll tell you, like, if you've never seen Arrested Development before and I get someone else hooked on Arrested Development, I'll be a happier person. That's a very funny show, very deep, very smart. I would say with Arrested Development, you got to watch it at least a few times. There are details in that show and jokes you just don't catch the first time around. I would point to Loose Seal being a good example of that. And for the Arrested Development fans out there, you'll get it. Sure. But Jay, as always, thank you very much for hanging out with me here for a few hours. I think I went way over what my original plan was, but to me, that's the testament of a good show. We did a good job. We didn't want it to stop.
Sure.
So, good night, folks. Thank you for joining us, and please, if you like this video, and I hope you do, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like it. Hit us up in the comments. Tell us. Heck, if you have any suggestions for shows you think we should cover, sometimes Jay and I are looking at each other. It really is an embarrassment of riches. I mean, at this point, we haven't done. This is our 4th episode. There's so much out there we could do. If there's anything you're looking for, I think. We're not too big and bad that we wouldn't be open to some suggestions. Absolutely. So please let us know and let us know what you think. Jay, good night, folks. Good night. We very much appreciated having you. See you next week.
Bye.